Hello everyone, and welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku became the god of time and fell in love with the celestial goddess of creation. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Mantle of Kronos. The multiverse shuddered, not a metaphorical tremor, but a literal fracturing of dimensional boundaries that sent quantum ripples cascading through 17 universes simultaneously. In the heart of this cosmic disturbance, a single figure hovered, dark against the kaleidoscopic storm of collapsing reality. Son Goku floated amid the chaos, his normally cheerful features hardened with concentration. The tournament of power had ended months ago, yet the challenges never ceased. This particular threat had appeared without warning, a being calling itself Kronoa who claimed dominion over time itself. Now the creature was tearing reality apart, folding moments back upon themselves with casual flicks of elongated fingers. You cannot comprehend what you face, Saiyan, Kron. Oa's voice rippled with discordant echoes, as though multiple versions of the entity were speaking simultaneously. I am beyond your concept of existence. Goku's eyes narrowed, tracking the entity's erratic movements. Kronoa appeared humanoid but stretched impossibly tall, skin like polished obsidian reflecting fractured light from the dimensional rifts surrounding them. Where eyes should be, NLY swirling vortices of silver energy pulsed. Maybe I don't understand exactly what you are, Goku replied, rolling his shoulders as the familiar surge of power built within him, but I know you're threatening innocent people. That's all I need to know. The air around him shimmered as he pushed beyond Super Saiyan Blue, tapping into the Ultra Instinct state that had become more accessible sin. See his battles in the tournament of power. Silver-white energy cascaded across his body, his hair rising and shifting to luminous silver. The pressure of his transformation caused nearby time fractures to momentarily stabilize. Kronoa's featureless face tilted. Interesting. Your energy signature exists partially outside normal causality. You've touched godhood before. I'm not interested in being a god, Goku responded, his voice carrying the serene confidence that came with Ultra Instinct. I just want to protect my home. Without warning, Kronoa's form split into three identical entities, each attacking from different vectors. Goku's body responded automatically, Ultra Instinct guiding his movements as he weaved between the attacks. His fist connected with the central Kronoa, only to pass through as if striking mist. I exist in past, present, and future simultaneously, Kronoa laughed, the sound distorting reality around them. You cannot harm what exists beyond linear time. A sudden impact drove Goku backward as the three forms converged, striking him from moments that hadn't happened yet. Pain lanced through his chest, but he recovered quickly, stabilizing his position amid the dimensional storm. If I can't hit you in the present, Goku muttered, a plan forming, then maybe. He focused inward, reaching for something beyond Ultra Instinct, a technique he'd been developing since witnessing the power of fusion during the tournament. If gods could fuse, perhaps mortal and divine energy could be interwoven differently. Temporal Kaioken, he shouted, combining the god-like energy of Ultra Instinct with the multiplicative force of his signature technique. The result was instant and devastating. His energy signature fractured across milliseconds, existing in multiple moments simultaneously. Kronoa faltered, suddenly defensive. Impossible. You're operating outside your temporal allowance. I don't really understand what that means, Goku replied. A familiar confident smile forming despite the strain of maintaining his new technique, but it sounds like I'm doing something right. He launched forward, his movements now leaving silver after him. Jests that weren't illusions but actual instances of himself microseconds apart. When his fist connected with Kronoa this time, it struck the entity across multiple moments simultaneously. The dimensional being shrieked, a sound that cracked reality itself. You cannot. The temporal balance doesn't seem very balanced with you tearing holes in it, Goku interrupted, continuing his assault. Each strike now landed in triplicate, his temporally fractured fists finding substance where single attacks had failed. Desperately, Kronoa began collapsing time itself, accelerating moments around Goku. To age and decay his attacks before they landed. The strain of maintaining temporal Kaioken under these conditions was immense, but Goku pushed harder, forcing more energy into the technique. Me, Energy gathered between his palms, but unlike any Kamehameha he'd performed before. This one existed across several seconds simultaneously, building in past, present and future at once. Me. Chronoa's form stretched impossibly, trying to escape across dimensional boundaries. You fool. This level of temporal manipulation will draw their attention. The beam erupted. No. Chi is pure energy but as concentrated temporal force. When it struck Chronoa, the entity didn't disintegrate but rather unraveled, coming apart as the moments of its existence separated and scattered across the dimensional void. As the final echoes of Chronoa's scream faded, the dimensional fractures began self-healing. Goku let his temporal Kaioken fade, dropping back to base form as exhaustion hit him with physical force. He hovered in the now stabilizing void, breathing heavily. That was different, he murmured to himself, flexing his fingers and noting how they seemed to leave slight trails in the air. As though part of him remained slightly out of sync with normal time. Indeed it was, Son Goku. The new voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Goku spun, instinctively raising his guard despite his exhaustion. The space before him distorted, folding inward until a figure emerged from what appeared to be a walking tear in reality itself. The newcomer stood nearly 7 feet tall, humanoid but clearly not human. Ancient eyes gazed from a face that seemed to shift subtly between young and old with each passing moment. Robes of midnight blue flowed around a form that occasionally became translucent, revealing glimpses of stars and nebulae beneath. Who are you? Goku asked, tension returning to his tired muscles. I am Chronos, the figure replied, voice resonating with quiet authority. The true god of time, whose authority the creature you destroyed sought to usurp. God of time. Goku relaxed slightly but maintained his distance. Experience had taught him that divine beings weren't always benevolent, regardless of their titles. Chronos nodded, the motion leaving subtle afterimages. Your instinctive creation of the technique you called temporal Kaioken is unprecedented. Mortals should not be capable of manipulating time at such a fundamental level. Sorry about that, Goku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I wasn't trying to break any rules. That Chronoa was threatening multiple universes, and I needed to stop it. Chronoa was a temporal parasite, one of many that feast upon weaknesses in the dimensional boundaries, Chronos explained, waving a hand to reveal the still healing tears in reality. Your previous battles, particularly your repeated breaking of dimensional barriers during what you call the Tournament of Power, Avenue created vulnerabilities throughout the multiverse. Guilt flashed across Goku's face. I didn't realize. Is there a way to fix it? There is, Chronos confirmed, but something in the ancient being's tone shifted. For the first time, Goku noticed the god's translucent appearance wasn't entirely natural. Chronos was fading, becoming less substantial with each passing moment. You're hurt, Goku observed, concern replacing caution. A bitter smile crossed Chronos' shifting features. Not hurt, Saiyan, dying. My confrontation with the greater void entities that sent Chronoa to this realm has left me diminished. The time stream requires a guardian, and I have maintained that role for eons beyond counting. Without a god of time, reality itself will unravel. Understanding dawned slowly on Goku's face, accompanied by a growing sense of alarm. Wait, you're not suggesting you have touched divinity before, Chronos continued, moving closer. The power of Ultra Instinct already plays aces you partially outside normal causality. Your battle technique just now demonstrated an intuitive grasp of temporal mechanics that even most divine beings lack. I'm not qualified to be a god, Goku protested, backing away slightly. I'm just a fighter who wants to protect his friends and family. And that, Chronos said gently, is precisely why you are qualified. The best guardians are those who understand what they protect. Previous gods of time have been born to the role, never having experienced the joy and pain of mortal existence. Perhaps that has been our failing. The space around them suddenly convulsed as massive, unseen forces pulled at the fabric of reality. Chronos staggered, momentarily becoming almost completely transparent before solidifying again with visible effort. We have little time, the god said urgently. The collapse has begun. Without a transfer of the divine mantle, the time stream will fracture beyond repair. Billions across all universes will cease to exist, not die, but be erased from having ever existed at all. Goku's mind raced. The responsibility being offered was beyond anything he'd ever contemplated. He thought of Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, his friends, if reality unraveled. Would they simply disappear? The thought was unbearable. If I accept, he asked carefully, would I still be me? Would I remember my life, my family? Kronos nodded. The mantle adapts to its bearer. You would retain your identity and memories, though your perspective would expand considerably. You would perceive time differently, exist partially beyond normal dimensional constraints. And yes, the god added, seeing Goku's next question forming, you could still visit Earth, though not precisely as you once did. Another violent tremor shook reality around them. This time, Kronos fell to one knee, form flickering dangerously. I cannot hold back the collapse much longer, the dying god gasped. Your decision, Saiyan. Goku closed his eyes briefly. The magnitude of the choice before him was overwhelming, but when he considered the alternative, the erasure of everything and everyone he loved, there was really no choice at all. I'll do it, he said finally, opening his eyes with renewed determination. Tell me what I need to do. Relief washed over Kronos' ancient features. Come closer. Goku approached as the god of time raised a trembling hand. As their fingertips touched, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The transfer is not without pain, Kronos warned. To become time is to experience all moments simultaneously before learning to filter them. Are you prepared? Goku nodded once, resolute. I'm ready. The connection between them flared brilliantly, golden light spiraling around their joined hands. Chr. Onos began dissolving into motes of luminescent energy that flowed into Goku like a river finding its new course. With the transfer came knowledge, vast, overwhelming torrents of information about the nature of time. The structure of reality, the rules that governed existence itself. And then came the pain. Goku's consciousness exploded outward, suddenly aware of every moment in his life simultaneously, his birth, childhood, arrival on Earth, every battle, every triumph, every failure, all happening at once. But it didn't stop there. His awareness continued expanding exponentially, encompassing the timelines of everyone he'd ever known, then everyone on Earth, then every being in Universe 7, then across all 12 universes, stretching backward to the moment of creation and forward to the heat-death of existence. He experienced the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations, the joy of first loves and the grief of final partings across countless worlds, all compressed into a single, unbearable instant of awareness. Goku screamed, but the sound existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. His body transformed, divine energy restructuring his very being at the quantum level. His Saiyan physiology remained but became infused with temporal energy that shifted his cells partially outside normal causality. After what seemed like both an eternity and an instant, the transfer completed. Where two beings had stood, now only Goku remained, though Goku was now an insufficient name for what he had become. He hovered in the dimensional void, eyes closed as his expanded consciousness struggled to organize the infinite input of temporal awareness. Slowly, instinctively, he began categorizing, compartmentalizing, filtering the overwhelming torrent of information into manageable streams. When he finally opened his eyes, they glowed with inner light, not the silver of ultra instinct but a deep, shimmering gold that contained flecks of every color in existence. His GI had transformed. Midnight blue like his predecessor's robes but with symbols of flowing time woven in threads of gold and silver. A staff had materialized in his right hand, topped with a crystalline hourglass containing what appeared to be a miniature galaxy. I can see everything, he whispered, his voice carrying harmonic overtones that rippled through the dimensional fabric. Every moment, everyone. He focused on Earth, his enhanced perception instantly locating his family. Chi-Chi was cooking dinner, unaware that her husband had just undergone a transformation beyond mortal comprehension. Gohan was in his study, papers spread before him as he worked on research. Goten played in the yard with Trunks. They existed now as temporal threads in a vast tapestry that Goku could observe in its entirety. A sudden disturbance in the fabric of reality drew his attention. The void before him rippled, then parted like a curtain to reveal a pathway that hadn't existed moments before. At its end glowed a light unlike any Goku had ever perceived, not merely visual but multidimensional, radiating on frequencies beyond normal sensory detection. Instinctively understanding that this was his next step, Goku moved forward. His movement was different now. He didn't so much fly as shift his position in relation to space-time itself. One moment he stood before the portal, the next he had traversed its length without experiencing the intervening distance. He emerged into what could only be described as a nexus, a vast, impossible space where countless timelines converged and diverged in patterns of mathematical perfection. Crystalline structures larger than planets floated in the void, each containing what appeared to be entire universes in various stages of development. Pathways of golden light connected different regions of the nexus, pulsing with energy that Goku now recognized as the flow of time itself. At the center of this cosmic magnificence stood a figure. For despite her clearly inhuman nature, something about the entity registered as feminine to Goku's perception, towered even taller than Chronos had, her form composed of swirling energy that shifted between patterns reminiscent of DNA helixes and galactic spirals. Where a face might be, a radiant sphere of light pulsed with colors beyond the visual spectrum. Her body seemed composed of nebulae and star clusters, contained within a roughly humanoid outline. When she spoke, her voice resonated not through air but directly into Goku's consciousness. The old guardian passes, and a mortal ascends. The tone carried neither approval nor condemnation, merely observation. Unusual, unprecedented in 7 cosmic cycles. Goku found his voice, though speaking now involved manipulating temporal energy rather than mere vocal cords. I am Son Goku. Chronos chose me as his successor before he faded. I am aware of all that transpires within creation, new god of time. The cosmic being's light sphere pulsed with each word. I am Avam, the celestial goddess of creation. Goku bowed instinctively, recognizing power far beyond even his new divine status. This place, the temporal nexus, Avam supplied. The confluence of all timelines across all realities. Your domain now, time god. There was something in her tone, a subtle note of skepticism perhaps, that triggered a familiar feeling in Goku despite his transformation. It was the same sensation he'd experienced when facing opponents who underestimated him. You don't think I'm qualified, he stated directly, straightening to his full height. The energy composing Avam's form swirled more rapidly. Your predecessor was 16 billion years old and had never known mortal existence. You were barely 4 decades from your birth and have spent most of that time focused on physical combat. The transition is jarring. I didn't ask for this responsibility, Goku replied honestly, but I accepted it to protect everyone I care about, and everyone else too. I might not understand everything about being a god yet, but I understand what it means to protect. Noble sentiments, Avam acknowledged, though her tone remained neutral. However, sentiment alone cannot maintain the integrity of the time stream. The duties of the god of time require precision, detachment, and perfect understanding of temporal mechanics. Goku smiled slightly, the expression transforming his divine features back toward something more recognizably himself. Then I'll learn. I've never backed down from a challenge before. For the first time, something like surprise registered in Avam's cosmic presence. The goddess moved closer, her energy field intersecting with Goku's temporal aura. The sensation was strange, like 2 oceans meeting but not quite mixing. Your confidence is either admirable or foolish, she observed. Perhaps both. Come, new time god. I will show you what you have inherited. With a gesture that bent space itself, Avam created a viewing portal within the nexus. It expanded to reveal a 3-dimensional map of what Goku recognized as the multiverse, 12 main universes arranged in pairs, with countless smaller pocket dimensions nestled between them. The cosmology you understood as a mortal was merely the surface layer, Avam explained. Reality exists in 19-dimensional planes, most imperceptible to beings below divine status. As god of time, you must maintain temporal flow across all of them simultaneously. The map shifted, zooming in on Universe 7. Goku watched in fascinity. On his golden threads representing individual timelines became visible, weaving together in complex patterns. Each decision point creates branching possibilities, Avam continued, her tone becoming more instructive. Most collapse back to primary timeline consistency, but some persist as alternate streams. Your predecessor culled unstable branches and reinforced vital nexus points to prevent temporal fragmentation. As she spoke, several of the golden threads began fraying, their light dimming ominously. Already the timestream weakens without proper maintenance, Avum noted with concern. You must stabilize these degrading timelines immediately. Panic flickered through Goku. I don't know how. You do, the goddess corrected. The knowledge transferred with the divine mantle. Access it. Goku closed his eyes, searching his expanded consciousness. Somewhere amid the vast influx of information was the technique Kronos had used to repair timeline integrity. He located the memo. Right, not his own but his predecessor's, and understood the process instantly. Opening his eyes, Goku raised the staff he still carried. Instinctively, he rotated it in a precise pattern while channeling divine energy through its crystalline focus. Golden light erupted from the hourglass, connecting to the fraying timelines and reinforcing their structure. The degrading threads stabilized, their luminosity returning to full brilliance. I did it, Goku murmured, surprised at how naturally the action had come once he located the knowledge. A simple repair, Avum acknowledged, though Goku detected a hint of approval in her cosmic voice. But adequately executed. Perhaps Kronos saw something in you that is not immediately apparent. Before Goku could respond, a violent tremor shook the temporal nexus. Several of the crystalline universe structures darkened momentarily, and countless timeline threads began oscillating erratically. What's happening? Goku demanded, automatically shifting to a defensive stance. Time fractures, Avum explained tersely. The transfer of divine power has created temporary instabilities. We must act quickly to prevent cascade failure. She gestured again, and the viewing portal shifted to display a sector of Universe 10. A massive distortion was spreading outward from what appeared to be a planet-sized rupture in space-time. A dimension is collapsing, the goddess continued. All within will be erased from existence if the breach isn't sealed. Goku's first instinct was to teleport directly to the location, but he quickly realized his instant transmission technique now operated on entirely different principles. Instead, he focused on the coordinates displayed in the portal and simply aligned himself with that point in space-time. Reality blurred, and suddenly he was hovering above the collapsing dimension. The sight was both terrifying and breathtaking. A planet-sized sphere of what appeared to be normal space was imploding. Its boundaries contracting while emitting pulses of temporal energy that distorted everything they touched. Inside the collapsing bubble, Goku could perceive life forms, thousands of them, unaware at their entire reality was moments from erasure. His enhanced senses detected something else too, a powerful energy signature at the center of the collapse, fighting desperately against the implosion. Without hesitation, Goku extended his staff toward the breach. Drawing upon his new knowledge, he began manipulating the temporal energy surrounding the collapse, attempting to stabilize the dimensional boundaries. The task was immeasurably more complex than the timeline repair he'd just performed. This wasn't merely strengthening existing structures but rebuilding reality that was actively unraveling. The strain was enormous, divine power flowing through him in torrents that would have vaporized his mortal form instantly. The breach is too severe for conventional methods, Avum's voice spoke directly into his mind. The goddess had followed him, her cosmic form now hovering beside his. You must use your connection to the core timeline to anchor this dimension. How? Goku asked through gritted teeth. Maintaining his hold on the collapsing reality through sheer determination. Your mortal existence gives you a unique perspective, Avum replied. Unlike your predecessor, you understand viscerally what it means to exist within time rather than beyond it. Use that connection, feel the life threads within the dimension and bind them to your own past temporal signature. Our standing bloomed in Goku's consciousness. He reached deeper, beyond divine techniques to something more fundamental. The same instinctive grasp of energy manipulation that had made him a peerless fighter as a mortal. Instead of trying to rebuild the dimension from outside, he extended his consciousness into it, aligning his temporal signature with the failing reality. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Golden energy spread from Goku's form, permeating the collapsing dimension and temporarily halting its implosion. Through this connection, he could now perceive clearly the beings trapped within. Humanoid creatures with scaled skin and bioluminescent markings, their civilization advanced but not spacefaring. At the dimension's center, fighting desperately to hold reality together, was a female warrior. Her power level was extraordinary, approaching Super Saiyan God levels despite having no divine ki. She wielded dual energy blades of crimson light, slashing at the fabric of the Kola. PSE as though fighting an invisible enemy. Hold on. Goku projected his voice into the dimension. I'm going to stabilize your reality. The warrior spun toward his voice, revealing fierce features. Framed by white hair that flowed like liquid metal. Her eyes widened in shock at the sight of him. Who are you? She demanded, never ceasing her battle against the collapse. I'm Goku, the new god of time, he responded, continuing to pour stabilizing energy into the dimension. Your reality is breaking down. I need to get you and your people out. My people are already gone, she replied grimly, gesturing to what Goku now realized were temporal echoes, afterimages of beings who had already been erased, their existence lingering only as energetic imprints in the dying dimension. I'm all that remains. Avum's voice cut through their exchange. The dimension cannot be saved, time god. Its foundational constants have degraded beyond recovery. You must extract the survivor before completing erasure. Goku nodded, extending one hand toward the warrior. Come with me. This entire dimension is collapsing permanently. The warrior hesitated only briefly before dismissing her energy blades and grasping his outstretched hand. The moment they touched, Goku enveloped her in his temporal field, protecting her from the increasing distortions. Now, seal the breach, Avum instructed. Quote, use the staff to reverse the dimensional flow and collapse it into a null point. With the warrior safely within his protective aura, Goku raised his staff once more. This time, instead of trying to rebuild the dimension, he focused on controlling its collapse, guiding the implosion into a precise singularity that would leave surrounding realities undamaged. The process was like closing a wound in space-time itself, drawing the edges together until they fused. With a final surge of divine power, Goku compressed the failing dimension into an infinitesimal point that winked out of existence with a flash of blinding light. Where a pocket universe had existed moments before, now there was only empty void, already beginning to be filled by the natural expansion of the surrounding cosmos. Exhaustion hit Goku like a physical blow. Despite his divine transformation, manipulating reality at this scale demanded enormous energy. He turned to the warrior he had rescued, who was staring at the EMPTY space where her entire civilization had just ceased to exist. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Avum says the dimension couldn't be saved. I know, she replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her loss. The Void Walkers damaged our reality core days ago. I've been fighting the collapse since then, but it was always a losing battle. She turned to face him fully, studying his divine form with keen eyes. Did you say you're the new god of time? Yeah, Goku confirmed, somewhat awkwardly adjusting to speaking with someone while maintaining the divine energy that kept them both existing in deep space. It just happened. The previous time god was dying and chose me as his successor. The warrior's expression shifted to one of careful neutrality. Interesting timing. Before Goku could question her meaning, Avum's cosmic presence expanded beside them. The survivor must be brought to the temporal nexus, the creation goddess stated. Her dimensional signature is unstable and will degrade without proper anchoring to a primary timeline. The warrior tensed visibly at Avum's appearance. A celestial, she murmured, automatically dropping into a fighting stance. Despite the futility of challenging such a being. It's okay, Goku assured her quickly. Avum is the goddess of creation. She's helping me understand my new role. Celestials have their own agendas, the warrior replied quietly, though she relaxed her stance slightly. But I have little choice but to trust you now. Goku considered her words with curiosity but filed them away for later consideration. What's your name? Tempest, she answered after a moment's hesitation. Last bladed dancer of the Chrono Guard. Or I was, until a few moments ago. Chrono Guard, Goku repeated, the term triggering recognition within his newly acquired divine knowledge. You were timeline protectors in your dimension. Tempest nodded once, sharp and precise. For 10,000 years, my order defended our reality from temporal incursions. We failed in the end. The dimensions grow increasingly unstable, Avum interrupted. We must return to the Nexus immediately to address the remaining fractures. With a thought, Goku shifted their position back to the temporal nexus, bringing Tempest within his field. The warrior's eyes widened as she took in the impossible cosmic architecture of the divine realm. The heart of all timelines, she whispered, recognition in her voice. We had legends about this place. Upon their return, Goku noticed the viewing portal still active but now showing multiple locations simultaneously, each displaying some form of temporal disturbance. The aftermath of the divine transfer was causing ripples throughout the multiverse. You must stabilize the primary timelines, Avum stated, gesturing toward the displays. Focus first on the anchors, Earth in Universe 7, Sadala in Universe 6, and Avalon in Universe 3. Their stability ensures the integrity of connected dimensions. Goku nodded, preparing to address the disturbances, when a sudden, sharp pain lanced through his consciousness. He gasped, momentarily doubling over his conflicting temporal awarenes. Overwhelmed his still adapting divine senses. What's happening to him? Tempest demanded, moving to support Goku as his form flickered briefly. His mortal consciousness is struggling to maintain coherence with his divine perspective. Avum explained, a note of concern entering her cosmic voice for the first time. The transition is rarely smooth, but his mortal origin makes it particularly difficult. Through the pain, Goku focused on what he was experiencing, not just sensory overload, but specific temporal threads pulling at his attention. Following these threads, he realized with shock that they led to Earth, to his family. They're in danger, he gasped, straightening with effort. Something's affecting the timeline around my family specifically. The viewing portal shifted automatically in response to his concern, focusing on the area around Mount Paozu. What it revealed sent a chill through Goku despite his divine nature. Temporal distortions were forming around his home, warping the natural flow of time in erratic patterns. Inside the house, Chi-Chi moved at varying speeds, sometimes frozen in mid-motion, other times blurring with accelerated movement. Outside, Goten appeared to be caught in a localized time loop, repeating the same 3 seconds of play over and over. The transitional resonance, Avum observed grimly. Your ascension has created feedback in timelines where you have strong emotional connections. Those closest to you are experiencing the worst effects. I need to help them. Goku moved to shift his location again, but Avum's energy field expanded to block him. Direct intervention would only exacerbate the distortions, the goddess warned. Your newly divine presence on Earth would create temporal shockwaves that could destroy the entire region. I can't just watch them suffer. Goku protested, divine energy flaring around him in response to his distress. There is an alternative approach, Avum conceded. You can stabilize their timelines remotely, using your staff to create a temporal sanctuary around them. It would shield them from further distortions while the resonance naturally dissipates. Tempest stepped forward. I can help, she offered. The Chrono Guard developed techniques for stabilizing localized temporal anomalies without direct intervention. Goku looked at her in surprise. You'd help protect my family. You saved me when my entire world was ending, Tempest replied simply. I honor my debts. With Tempest's guidance, Goku positioned his staff toward the viewing portal. Following her precise instructions, he channeled his divine energy into a specific pattern, not raw power but carefully modulated pulses that resonated with Earth's natural temporal frequency. Focus on your connection to them, Tempest instructed. Not as a god to mortals, but as the person you were. That connection still exists within your energy signature. Goku closed his eyes, thinking of Chi-Chi's smile, Gohan's quiet determination, Goten's boundless enthusiasm. Despite his transformation, these memories remained vivid, untouched by divine perspective. Drawing on these emotional anchors, he refined the energy flowing through his staff. A dome of golden light formed around the Sun family home in the viewing portal, expanding to encompass the surrounding area. Within this protective barrier, the temporal distortions began to smooth out, returning to normal flow. It's working, Goku observed with relief. You've created a temporal sanctuary, Avum confirmed. They will be protected until your divine resonance stabilizes completely, which should occur within approximately 72 Earth hours. Though relieved, a profound sadness washed over Goku. I can't even say goodbye properly, can I? If I go there in person. Not yet, Avum replied, her tone softening slightly. But once you have fully integrated your divine and mortal aspects, controlled visitations will be possible. Your predecessor occasionally walked among mortals using a physical avatar that contained only a fraction of his true essence. This provided some comfort, but the reality of his transformation was becoming increasingly clear to Goku. His life had changed fundamentally and irrevocably. The carefree fighter who lived for the next challenge had become responsible for the very fabric of existence. There are other disturbances requiring attention, Avum noted, gesturing toward the viewing portal where multiple anomalies continued to manifest across different universes. The transition period is always turbulent. Goku straightened, determination replacing melancholy. He might not have chosen this path, but he would fulfill his responsibility to the best of his ability, just as he always had when protecting Earth. Show me what needs to be done, he said firmly. Over the next several hours, though time held little meaning within the temporal nexus, Goku worked tirelessly to address the disturbances caused by the divine transfer. Under Avum's guidance, he learned to identify different types of temporal anomalies and the specific techniques required to resolve each. Tempest proved an unexpected ally. Her millennia of experience as a chronoguard providing practical insights that complemented Avum's more cosmic perspective. Where the celestial goddess spoke in terms of dimensional constants and vibrational harmonics, Tempest offered concrete analogies that helped Goku translate divine concepts into actionable techniques. Think of time like water, she explained during one particularly complex stabilization. It wants to flow along the path of least resistance. Your job isn't to force it into a new channel but to remove the blockages in its natural course. This approach resonated with Goku's intuitive understanding of energy manipulation. By applying Tempest's practical framework to Avum's cosmic knowledge, he developed his own style of temporal maintenance that drew on his unique background as a martial artist. As they worked, Goku began noticing subtle shifts in Avum's attitude toward him. The goddess's initial skepticism seemed to be giving way to cautious assessment as she observed his adaptability and unwavering determination. You learn quickly, she noted during a brief respite between stabilizations. Most new divine beings require centuries to develop the level of control you've achieved in hours. I've always been a fast learner when it comes to techniques, Goku replied modestly. And having both of you to guide me helps a lot. Nevertheless, your progress is unexpected. The goddess's energy field shifted in patterns that Goku was beginning to recognize as indicative of thoughtfulness. Perhaps Kronos' choice was not as impulsive as it first appeared. While Avum maintained a certain cosmic detachment, Tempest was more direct in her interactions. As they worked together to address a particularly complicated fracture in Universe 2, she studied Goku with undisguised curiosity. You're unlike any god I've encountered, she remarked. You still think like a mortal warrior. Is that good or bad? Goku asked, genuinely interested in her assessment. Neither. Just different. Tempest demonstrated a counter-rotation technique with her hands that Goku quickly mimicked with his staff. Most deities I've met were so removed from mortal experience they couldn't understand the consequences of their actions. You seem to care about the beings affected by these disturbances, not just the abstract concept of timeline integrity. Of course I care, Goku replied, surprised that this would be noteworthy. Every timeline has real people with real lives. That's what we're protecting. Tempest's expression softened momentarily before returning to its usual alertness. Hold on to that perspective, Time God. It may prove to be your greatest strength. As the immediate crisis points were addressed and the multiverse began stabilizing into new equilibrium, Avum guided Goku to a specific section of the temporal nexus. Here, crystalline structures shaped like inverted pyramids hung suspended in the void, each containing what appeared to be a complete dimensional record. The archives of ages, the goddess explained. Every timeline, every dimensional variance, every possible outcome is recorded here. As god of time, you must familiarize yourself with the critical nexus points, moments where significant divergences occur. Goku approached one of the crystals, fascinated as images formed within its faceted surface. He recognized moments from his own timeline, his arrival on Earth as an infant, his first meeting with Bulma, the battle with Frieza on Namek, the Cell Games, the Tournament of Power. These are all important moments from my life, he observed. Nexus points in Universe 7's primary timeline, Avum confirmed. Your personal timeline has unusual significance in multiversal stability. Your decisions have repeatedly altered the course of not just Earth but multiple universes. The realization was humbling. Goku had never considered his life in terms of cosmic significance before. The archives will help you identify potential instabilities before they manifest, Avum continued. Regular observation of nexus points is essential to preventative maintenance of the timestream. As Goku studied the crystal, a separate archive suddenly pulsed with ominous red light. Avum immediately moved toward it, her cosmic form expanding with what Goku now recognized as concern. "What's wrong?" he asked, joining her beside the disturbed crystal. "A temporal incursion," she replied, her voice taking on a new urgency. "Something is attempting to alter a protected timeline." Within the crystal, Goku could see a landscape he didn't recognize, a crystalline city nestled between mountains of impossible geometry. In the city's central plaza, reality itself seemed to be tearing open as a shadowy form emerged from the breach. Universe 9, Crystallis Prime, Avum identified. A civilization approaching Type 3 status. The incursion threatens to collapse their developmental timeline. "I'll handle it," Goku stated confidently, preparing to shift his location. "Wait," Tempest interrupted, studying the image with narrowed eyes. "That breach pattern, it's identical to what the Void Walkers used to destroy my dimension." Avum's energy field pulsed with alarm. "Impossible. The Void Walkers were sealed beyond the multiversal boundary after the third recursion. Evidently they've found a way back," Tempest replied grimly. "And if they're targeting Type 3 civilizations specifically, they're attempting to prevent the emergence of beings capable of challenging them," Avum concluded. "This is not a random incursion but a strategic attack." Goku gripped his staff, divine energy swirling around him. "Then I'll stop them. That's my job now, right? Protecting the timelines." Avum turned toward him, her cosmic presence intensifying. "This is beyond routine maintenance, Time God. The Void Walkers are extra-dimensional entities that exist outside normal causality. Even C. Hirono's at his full power approached such confrontations with extreme caution. With respect, Celestial, Tempest interjected, caution is what cost my dimension its existence. Direct intervention is the only effective response to Void Walker incursions. For a moment, tension crackled between the warrior and the goddess. Goku sensed centuries of history underlying their disagreement, cosmic policies versus practical experience. Divine detachment versus personal loss. "I'm going," he decided firmly. "But I'll be careful. Tempest, what can you tell me about fighting these Void Walkers?" As Tempest quickly briefed him on the entities' vulnerabilities, Goku noted that Avum made no further attempt to dissuade him. Instead, the goddess observed their exchange with what seemed like thoughtful reassessment. "Their physical forms are vulnerable to disruption of their temporal anchor points," Tempest explained, indicating specific locations on the shadowy figure visible in the crystal. "Attack these junctions with precision rather than raw power. And whatever you do, don't allow them to touch you directly, they can erase portions of your timeline on contact." Goku nodded, committing the information to memory. "Got it. Precision strikes at the anchor points. Avoid direct contact." "One additional measure," Avum interjected, moving closer. Before Goku could react, the goddess extended a tendril of her cosmic energy toward him. The sensation as it touched his divine aura was extraordinary, like being simultaneously immersed in fire and ice while remaining unburned and unfrozen. "What are you doing?" he asked, holding still as the energy spread across his form. "Creating a secondary protective resonance," Avum replied. "It will help shield your temporal signature from their erasure abilities." The process completed, leaving Goku's divine aura shimmering with subtle rainbow highlights that hadn't been present before. "Thank you," he said sincerely, touched by the protective gesture from a being who had initially seemed so detached. Avum's energy field rippled in what might have been the cosmic equivalent of embarrassment. "It is merely practical. Training a new time god would be inefficient." Despite the gravity of the situation, Goku found himself smiling. Behind the goddess's formal exterior, he was beginning to glimpse something more complex, a being with emotions and concerns not entirely unlike his own, despite the vast difference in their nature and power. "I'll be back soon," he promised, focusing on the coordinates displayed in the crystal. With a thought, He aligned himself with that point in space-time and shifted. The transition was instantaneous. One moment he stood in the temporal nexus, the next, he hovered above the crystalline city of Crystallis Prime. His divine senses immediately detected the wrongness of the incursion, a tear in reality that violated the natural laws of Universe 9. The entity emerging from the breach matched Tempest's description perfectly. Vaguely humanoid but composed of shifting shadows that seemed to absorb light rather than merely block it, the Void Walker stood nearly 20 feet tall. Where a face should be, only a pulsing void existed, ringed by what appeared to be eyes that didn't reflect light but consumed it. Already, the entity's presence was affecting the surrounding area. The crystalline structures nearest the breach were degrading, their molecular bonds weakening as temporal stability fluctuated. Citizens of Crystallis Prime, elegant beings with translucent skin that revealed complex geometric patterns beneath, fled in terror as reality itself seemed to unravel around them. Goku descended to hover between the Void Walker and the fleeing civilians. His divine appearance immediately drew the entity's attention, its void-like face turning toward him with predatory focus. Time God, the creature spoke, its voice causing ripples of distortion in the surrounding air. New, inexperienced, vulnerable. I might be new, Goku replied, twirling his staff into a defensive position, but I'm not vulnerable. Return to whatever dimension you came from, or I'll send you there myself. The Void Walker's form expanded, tendrils of darkness extending outward. Your predecessor feared us, with reason. We consumed entire timelines while he watched, paralyzed by cosmic law and tradition. I'm not big on tradition, Goku responded, divine energy gathering around his staff. I prefer direct approaches. Without warning, he launched forward, moving at speeds that would have been impossible even with Ultra Instinct in his mortal form. Following Tempest's instructions, he targeted one of the temporal anchor points with a precisely focused blast of divine energy. The Void Walker shrieked as the golden beam struck its left shoulder junction, the shadowy substance there temporarily dispersing to reveal a pulsing core of anti-light. It retaliated immediately, shadow tender. ILS whipping toward Goku with reality-erasing properties that left visible tears in space-time wherever they passed. Goku weaved between the attacks, his divine perception allowing him to see the trajectories of the tendrils before they fully formed. Each time an opening presented itself, he struck another anchor point with surgical precision, gradually destabilizing the entity's physical manifestation. You fight differently, the Void Walker observed, a note of uncertainty entering its distorted voice. The previous time God maintained distance. Regulatory enforcement only. I'm not much for regulations either, Goku replied, landing a particularly effective strike that caused the entity to visibly diminish in size. I prefer solving problems directly. The battle intensified as the Void Walker realized its standard tactics were ineffective against this unorthodox time God. It shifted strategies, suddenly plunging its tendrils into the ground beneath the crystalline city. The effect was immediate. Temporal fractures spread outward from the point of contact, causing sections of the city to experience accelerated decay or reverse into previous states of construction. Civil Eons caught in these fractures found themselves aging rapidly or regressing to childhood, their personal timelines disrupted by proximity to the distortions. Their cries of confusion and terror triggered something primal in Goku. Despite his divine transformation, enough, he shouted, divine authority resonating through his voice. Drawing on techniques he had just learned from Avum and Adapton. Them through his instinctive understanding of combat, Goku began spinning his staff in complex patterns. Each rotation generated rings of golden temporal energy that spread outward, neutralizing the fractures and stabilizing the affected areas. The Void Walker recoiled as its influence was systematically countered. Impossible. A new time God cannot possess such control. Maybe most don't, Goku acknowledged, continuing his counterattack, but I've been adapting to impossible situations my whole life. It's kind of my specialty. With the immediate threat to the civilians contained, Goku shifted focus to the breach itself. The tear in reality continued to widen, potentially allowing more Void Walkers to enter. Using his staff as a conduit, he extended his divine perception into the dimensional tear, identifying the quantum frequencies maintaining its stability. This was the most complex temporal manipulation he had attempted yet, not merely reinforcing existing structures but actively closing a breach created by entities that existed outside normal causality. Drawing on his new divine knowledge and his lifetime of energy manipulation experience, Goku began a technique that assembled a kata more than a formal divine procedure. Each movement channeled specific wavelengths of temporal energy, countering the breach's expansion frequencies. The tear began to shrink, its edges knitting together as reality reasserted its natural integrity. The Void Walker, recognizing the threat to its escape route, abandoned its attack on the city and lunged toward Goku with desperate ferocity. "You cannot banish us permanently, Time God," it shrieked. "We existed before your multiverse and will remain after its ending." "Maybe so," Goku replied calmly, continuing his systematic closure of the breach while simultaneously avoiding the entity's increasingly erratic attacks. "But right now, you're trespassing in my domain. And I protect what's mine." With a final, decisive gesture, Goku completed the breach closure technique. The dimensional tear collapsed with a thunderous implosion of energy, cutting off whatever dimension the Void Walker had emerged from. The entity screamed in rage and desperation, suddenly trapped in a reality hostile to its very nature. "You have doomed yourself, Time God," it hissed, its form beginning to destabilize without the sustaining energy of the breach. "The eschaton will learn of your interference. The balance will be restored." "If this eschaton wants to talk about balance, I'm happy to discuss it," Goku responded, raising his staff for a final attack. "Until then, your time in this universe is over." Channeling divine energy through his staff, Goku executed what instinct told him was a temporal banishment, a technique T didn't destroy the entity but forcibly relocated it to a null dimension where it could cause no further harm. The Void Walker's form unraveled as the technique took effect, its substance dispersing into particles of shadow that winked out of existence one by one. "We will return." Its final words faded as the last traces of its presence vanished from Universe 9. In the sudden silence that followed, Goku became aware of the crystalline citizens of Crystallis Prime. They had emerged from hiding and now stood in a wide circle around him, their geometric patterns pulsing with what his divine senses interpreted as awe and gratitude. One stepped forward, taller than the others, with patterns of greater complexity. When it spoke, its voice resonated through crystal rather than air. "Time God, you have saved our civilization," it said formally. "The Void Walker would have collapsed our entire timeline. We are eternally in your debt." Goku smiled, the expression transforming his divine countenance into something more approachable. "I'm just doing my job. Your people should be safe now, but I'll make sure to keep an eye on this region in case more of those things show up." The crystalline being bowed deeply. "In our history, we have recorded 17 interventions by cosmic entities. Never has one engaged directly as you have. Our records will honor your approach." "Thanks," Goku replied somewhat awkwardly, still adjusting to divine reverence. "But the best way to honor me would be to continue building your civilization. From what I can see, you're creating something pretty amazing here." After ensuring there were no lingering temporal disturbances that required attention, Goku prepared to return to the temporal nexus. Before shifting, he took a moment to back at the city, now bustling with activity as the crystalline beings began repairs and celebrated their salvation. The sight filled him with a profound sense of satisfaction. This was protection on a scale he had never imagined as a mortal, but the fundamental purpose remained the same, preserving lives and possibilities. With that thought warming his divine consciousness, Goku aligned himself with the temporal nexus and shifted back. Upon his return, he found Avum and Tempest monitoring his battle through a viewing crystal. Tempest's expression was openly impressed, while Avum's cosmic energy pulsed with what seemed like surprised reassessment. "Your approach was unconventional," the goddess observed. "But effective," Tempest added, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Direct engagement rather than regulatory enforcement from a distance. I've been advocating that strategy against Void Walkers for millennia. The traditional approach prioritizes minimum disruption to established timeline vectors," Avum countered, though without her earlier dismissiveness. "However, I acknowledge that in this instance, direct intervention produced optimal results with minimal collateral timeline disturbance." Goku realized this was as close to approval as the ancient goddess was likely to express. The Void Walker mentioned someone called the Eschaton before I banished it. It seemed pretty concerned about this person finding out what happened. Both Avum and Tempest grew still at the name, exchanging a glance laden with significance. The Eschaton is no person, Avum finally explained, her cosmic voice grave. It is an entity that embodies the concept of universal ending. Where I represent creation's beginning, the Eschaton represents its ultimate conclusion. It believes all existence must eventually return to nothingness, Tempest added, her hand instinctively moving to where her energy blades would form. The Void Walkers serve its purpose by destabilizing timelines that might produce beings capable of challenging its inevitability. If the Eschaton has indeed directed its attention to this multiverse, Avum continued, then your appointment is time. God may have occurred at a more critical juncture than even Kronos realized. Goku absorbed this information with growing determination. Then we'll be ready for whatever comes. I didn't ask for this job. But I won't back down from protecting what matters. The simple declaration seemed to resonate within the temporal nexus itself, the surrounding crystalline structures briefly pulsing in harmony with his words. Avum's cosmic form shifted closer, her energy field intersecting with Goku's temporal aura in what he was beginning to recognize as her version of direct communication. You are unlike any time god who has held the mantle, she observed, her tone carrying complex harmonics that his divine senses interpreted as a mixture of concern, curiosity, and something less definable. Her mortal perspective creates approaches no traditional deity would consider. This is simultaneously your greatest vulnerability and potentially your greatest strength. I'll take that as a compliment, Goku replied with a slight smile. Take it as an observation, the goddess corrected, though the harmonics in her voice softened. The coming challenges will test the wisdom of Kronos' choice. For now, you have performed adequately in your first crisis response. From Avum, Goku was learning, this constituted high praise indeed. Tempest approached, her expression more openly appreciative. Your battle technique against the Void Walker was impressive. You adapted to divine combat more naturally than any ascended being I've observed. Fighting has always come naturally to me, Goku acknowledged. Though fighting as a god is definitely different from fighting as a Saiyan. Yet you incorporated elements of your mortal combat style into divine techniques, Tempest noted with interest. Your kata-based approach to the breach closure was particularly effective. It just felt right, Goku explained with characteristic simplicity. Divine energy responds to intention and visualization. My body remembers patterns better than my mind, so I translated the technique into movements. Avum's energy field pulsed with what might have been surprise. An intuitive application of divine metaphysics that most cosmic entities require centuries to grasp. She paused, then added, perhaps Kronos saw potential that was not immediately apparent. The goddess moved toward the central observation array, her form expanding to interface directly with the crystalline structures. The multiverse is stabilizing as your divine resonance integrates with the existing temporal framework. However, numerous minor disturbances still require attention. Goku nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Despite the overwhelming nature of his transformation and the cosmic responsibilities that came with it, he was adapting, finding his way as he always had, through determination and action rather than hesitation. Show me what needs to be done next, he said, taking his place beside Avum at the observation array. As the goddess began highlighting various disturbances requiring attention, Goku caught Tempest studying him with an unreadable expression. When their eyes met, she didn't look away but offered a small nod of what seemed like respect, perhaps even the beginning of trust. In the vast, crystalline expanse of the temporal nexus, as Goku embraced his new role as god of time, he felt something unexpected forming, not just duty or responsibility, but connection. To Tempest with her warrior's directness, to Avum with her ancient wisdom, and to the countless timelines now under his protection. The journey ahead would undoubtedly bring challenges beyond anything he had faced as a mortal. The Void Walkers, the mysterious Eschaton, and his own continuing adaptation to divinity all loomed as formidable obstacles. Yet as he stood between the celestial goddess and the last Chrono Guard, studying the myriad timelines entrusted to his care, Son Goku felt something familiar. Stirring within his transformed being, the same determination that had carried him through every battle, every impossible challenge throughout his life. Whatever came next, he would face it as he always had, head-on. With unwavering resolve and an open heart. In the infinite expanse of the temporal nexus, as countless timelines pulsed with renewed stability under his nascent divine influence, the new god of time smiled. The greatest adventure of his existence had only just begun. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Threads of Destiny. Time flowed differently in the temporal nexus. What felt like YS to Goku's consciousness might represent mere moments in the mortal realm, or conversely, centuries could pass within the blink of a divine eye. This fluid relationship with temporality still disoriented him despite his transformation into the god of time. Focus, Avum instructed, her cosmic voice reverberating through the crystalline chamber they occupied. You perceive time as linear because your consciousness remains partially bound by mortal experience. True mastery requires simultaneous awareness of all temporal vectors. Goku stood at the center of what Avum called the calibration sphere, a perfect globe of luminous energy containing miniature representations of countless timelines. Each appeared as a delicate golden thread, some pulsing with vibrant light, others dimming with instability. His task seemed simple in theory yet proved maddeningly difficult in practice. Maintain equal awareness of all threads simultaneously. I'm trying, he replied, perspiration beading on his forehead despite his divine form requiring no physical exertion. But there are so many, and they keep shifting. They shift because you perceive them sequentially, Avum explained with what might have been a hint of impatience. Abandon the concept of first and next. Embrace simultaneity. Goku closed his eyes, though the action made no difference to his divine perception. The timelines remained visible, their golden light pulsing against his consciousness. He tried a different approach, drawing on his martial arts training. When facing multiple opponents, a fighter couldn't focus on individuals sequentially. He needed peripheral awareness of all threats at once. Applying this principle, Goku expanded his consciousness outward, attempting to hold all timelines in awareness without specifically focusing on any single one. For a brief, exhilarating moment, he succeeded. Thousands of temporal threads existed equally in his perception, their patterns and interconnections suddenly clear. Then, instinctively, he tried to examine one particularly interesting connection, and the unified awareness shattered. Better, Avum acknowledged as Goku's shoulders slumped in frustration. Your martial instinct provides a useful framework. However, divine perception transcends even your most advanced combat awareness. It's like trying to hold water without a cup, Goku muttered, rubbing his temples. Although his divine form didn't experience fatigue as his mortal body had, mental exertion still produced a sensation resembling exhaustion. From the chamber's edge where she'd been observing, Tempest spoke up. The Chrono Guard used a different approach for novices. Instead of attempting full simultaneous awareness immediately, we began with resonance training. Avum's mic form shifted in what Goku was learning to interpret as mild annoyance. Resonance techniques are rudimentary. The time god requires comprehensive perception. With respect, Tempest countered, stepping forward. Even divine beings learn progressively. You're asking him to run before he can walk. Goku glanced between them, sensing deeper tensions underlying their disagreement. During the days since his ascension and battle with the Void Walker, he'd observed subtle but persistent friction between the creation goddess and the displaced timeline warrior. It went beyond philosophical differences. Something in their respective histories created mutual wariness that neither fully explained. I'd like to try Tempest's approach, Goku decided, turning to the white-haired warrior. What's this resonance training? Tempest approached, her movements precise and economical as always. Unlike Avum's cosmic manifestation, Tempest appeared fully physical, tall and athletic with features that combined fierce beauty and battle-hardened intensity. The bioluminescent markings that spiraled across her visible skin pulsed with subtle light as she entered the calibration sphere. Resonance begins with a single timeline, your native one, she explained, gesturing at one particular golden thread that shimmered more brightly than its neighbors. Establish complete awareness of it first, Hen gradually extend your perception to connected timelines using harmonic frequencies. Avum's energy field pulsed with reluctant consideration. The Chrono Guard approach has merit for transitional beings, she finally conceded. Proceed with your demonstration, Blade Dancer. Taking Goku's wrist, an action that still sent a slight shock through his system, as physical contact with his divine E-form remained rare. Tempest guided his hand toward his native timeline. Close your awareness to all others, she instructed. Focus exclusively on Earth's primary timestream. What do you feel? Goku concentrated, filtering out the multitude of other timelines until only the golden thread representing Earth remained in his perception. Immediately, the connection strengthened. He could sense the planet's rotation. The rhythmic patterns of day and night cycling across continents, the collective heartbeats of billions of lives, each following their personal temporal trajectory. I can feel everything, he whispered, awed despite his divine status. Every person, every moment, it's like holding an entire world in my mind. Now, Tempest continued, her voice dropping to match his quiet wonder. Identify the harmonic resonance, the unique temporal signature that distinguishes this timeline from all others. Goku focused deeper, perceiving beyond physical events to the underlying tempo. Raw frequency that defined Earth's primary timeline. It manifested not as sound but as a complex vibrational pattern, a cosmic fingerprint as distinctive as a voice. I can feel it, he confirmed, a smile spreading across his face. It's like home, familiar, even though I've never sensed it this way before. Excellent, Tempest nodded approvingly. Now, without losing that connection, extend your awareness to the nearest branching timeline. Feel how its resonance differs slightly, a variation on the primary pattern. Following her instruction, Goku expanded his perception to a neighboring timeline, one where events had diverged from his familiar history. The resonance was indeed similar but contained subtle differences, like a familiar melody played in a different key. I see, he murmured, understanding dawning. Each timeline has its own signature, but connected ones share harmonic elements. I can use those connections to move between them without losing focus. Precisely, Tempest confirmed. Continue adding timelines progressively, using the harmonic relationships to maintain coherent awareness. Over the next hour, Goku practiced extending his perception outward from his native timeline, gradually incorporating more threads into his awareness by focusing on their harmonic relationships rather than trying to perceive them as separate entities. By using this method, he successfully maintained simultaneous awareness of over 50 connected timelines without losing coherence. Your adaptation is remarkable, Tempest noted with quiet approval. The Chrono Guard Reek, you hired years to develop this level of perception. You've achieved it in a single session. The advantage of divine transformation, Avum observed, her cosmic presence moving closer to examine Goku's progress. Though your approach has proven more effective than anticipated, Bladed answer. The grudging compliment seemed to surprise Tempest as much as it did Goku. The warrior inclined her head GHTLY in acknowledgement but maintained her characteristic reserve. The real test comes with active manipulation, she noted, gesturing to a dimming timeline among those Goku now held in awareness. That thread shows signs of instability. Can you identify the failing nexus point? Goku focused on the weakening timeline, tracing its length until he located a point where the golden energy faltered. Extending his divine perception into that specific moment, he witnessed a civilization on the brink of destroying itself through warfare involving crude temporal technology, devices that created localized time distortions as weapons. They're damaging their own timeline with unstable time manipulation, he observed, concern flooding his consciousness. The effects are spreading outward and weakening neighboring realities. A common problem with civilizations that discover temporal physics before developing ethical frameworks to govern its use, Avum noted dispassionately. Stabilize the divergence point before the damage becomes irreversible. Drawing on his training, Goku extended his will through his staff, channeling divine energy toward the weakened nexus point. Rather than forcing the timeline back into compliance, he subtly reinforced its natural harmonic pattern, allowing the temporal resonance to self-correct. Within moments, the dimming thread brightened, stability retu. RNING is the timeline's inherent self-healing mechanisms activated with his divine encouragement. In the physical reality of that world, the effect manifested as a sudden, simultaneous failure of all temporal weapons, preventing their catastrophic deployment. Well done, Tempest remarked, genuine respect coloring her voice. Indeed, Avum agreed, her cosmic energy field modulating to a frequency Goku was beginning to associate with approval. You grasp the principle of minimum intervention, guiding rather than forcing temporal correction. Goku lowered his staff, a mixture of satisfaction and humility washing over him. It's strange. 3 days ago, I was just a fighter from Earth. Now I'm preventing entire civilizations from erasing themselves from existence. The burden of divine responsibility, Avum stated. Though something in her cosmic voice suggested deeper understanding than her formal words conveyed. Before Goku could respond, the calibration sphere pulsed with crimson light, an alert he'd already learned indicated external visitors to the temporal nexus. The Chronarch Council approaches, Avum announced, her energy field contracting slightly. They seek audience with the new time god. Tempest's posture immediately stiffened, her hand instinctively moving to her side where her energy blades would form. The full council, so soon? That's unprecedented. What's the Chronarch Council? Goku asked, letting the timeline awareness fade as he turned toward the chamber's entrance. The governing body of cosmic overseers, Avum explained, moving toward the chamber's exit. Representatives from various divine hierarchies who maintain balance between fundamental forces. Normally, they allow a new cosmic deity 3 cycles to acclimate before formal presentation. Their early arrival suggests concern, Tempest added, her tone carefully neutral though her stance remained alert. The council doesn't break protocol without cause. Goku straightened his midnight blue robes and gripped his staff more firmly. Guess I should make a good impression then. Avum led them from the calibration sphere through a series of crystalline passages that reconfigured themselves as they walked, opening new pathways and closing others. The architecture of the temporal nexus, Goku had discovered, responded to the needs and intentions of its divine occupants rather than maintaining fixed configurations. They emerged into what Goku recognized as the central confluence, a vast, open space where massive arcs of temporal energy intersected to form a perfect dodecahedron. Each face of the geometric structure served as a window into a different cosmic realm. Normally these viewing portals remained inactive, showing only shimmering reflective surfaces, but now 5 of them pulsed with gathering energy. 5 council members, Tempest murmured, surprise evident in her voice. They rarely convene with more than 3 for a simple introduction. The portals flared simultaneously, and threw each stepped a being of clearly divine origin. Though they manifested in vaguely humanoid forms, their appearance and energy signatures were distinctly otherworldly. The first resembled an ancient scholar, his skin like burnished copper with glowing geometric patterns etched across its surface. His eyes contained spinning galaxies instead of irises, and he carried scrolls that appeared to be made of condensed starlight. Logos, the cosmic archivist, Avum introduced formally. Observer of all knowledge across all dimensions. The second council member appeared female, her form composed of constantly flowing water that somehow maintained a solid shape. Her movements created rippling harmonics that resonated through the temporal nexus itself. Thalassa, goddess of cosmic currents, Avum continued, keeper of the flows between realities. The third being seemed barely present at all, more suggestion than substance, a humanoid outline filled with shifting nebulae and stellar phenomena. Where a face might be, only a brilliant, star-like light pulsed. Ether, the primordial witness, Avum said, present at the first moment of creation. The 4th visitor contrasted sharply with Ether's ephemeral presence, a towering figure whose body appeared carved from obsidian, inlaid with veins of molten gold that pulsed like a heartbeat. His features remained fixed in an expression of stern judgment. Axiom, the divine arbiter, Avum's voice cooled noticeably. Enforcer of cosmic law, the final council member was perhaps the most unsettling, a perfectly formed humanoid shape composed of absolute darkness, not merely black but the complete absence of light. Within this void, countless tiny points of brilliance swirled like imprisoned stars. Nyx, keeper of cosmic mysteries, Avum finished, guardian of secrets beyond mortal comprehension. The 5 divine beings arranged themselves in a semicircle before Goku, each radiating power that would have overwhelmed his mortal senses entirely. Even with his divine transformation, their combined presence created pressure against his consciousness. Logos stepped forward first, galaxy eyes studying Goku with clinical interest. So this is Kronos' successor. A Saiyan warrior ascended directly to cosmic status without transitional preparation. Unprecedented in 17 cosmic cycles. Reckless, Axiom stated, his voice resonating like stone grinding against stone. The divine mantle requires millennia of preparation. Kronos violated protocol by bestowing it upon a mortal, regardless of circumstance. Yet here he stands, successfully bearing the mantle, Thalassa countered, her watery form rippling with what might have been amusement. Adaptation suggests worthiness, does it not? Worthiness and readiness are distinct considerations, Axiom replied sternly. The time god's responsibilities affect all realities. Improper execution threatens cosmic stability. Throughout this exchange, Goku remained silent, recognizing the discussion as a continuation of one that had likely begun long before his arrival. These beings spoke about him rather than to him, assessing a new variable in their cosmic equations. Finally, Nix's void-like form shifted slightly, and when the entity spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The pattern changes, Nix observed cryptically. Old cycles break, new configurations form. Kronos saw this. His choice was deliberate. Deliberate does not mean wise, Axiom insisted, golden veins pulsing more rapidly with his apparent agitation. The mortal retains his former consciousness, his former attachments. A proper time god transcends such limitations. Goku decided it was time to speak for himself. He stepped forward, divine energy swirling around him as he addressed the council directly. I didn't ask for this responsibility, he stated firmly, meeting each council member's gaze in turn. I accepted it when Kronos explained what was at stake. Maybe I'm not what you expected or wanted, but I'm doing my best to learn quickly and fulfill my duties. His directness seemed to surprise the council members, particularly Axiom, whose obsidian features hardened further. Logos tilted his head, scrolls floating around him adjusting their positions. The Saiyan addresses us directly. Interesting. Most new deities maintain reverential silence before the council. I respect your positions, Goku replied honestly, but standing silently while you debate my worthiness doesn't seem productive. If you have concerns, tell me directly so I can address them. Thalassa's watery form rippled in what appeared to be laughter. Refreshing. No wonder Kronos chose him. After eons of rigid tradition, he selected one who would break calcified patterns. Breaking patterns invites chaos, Axiom warned, but Ether's stellar form pulsed brighter, speaking for the first time in a voice that sounded like distant stellar winds. Renewal requires disruption, the ancient entity observed. The time stream stagnated under traditional management. Perhaps fresh perspective brings necessary change. Nix drifted closer to Goku, the void of its form seeming to absorb light from the surrounding nexus. You have already fought Void Walkers, the entity stated. Directly, offensively, not from distance, not through regulation. This was clearly significant to the council, as all members focused more intently on Goku. The Void Walker was threatening an entire civilization, Goku explained simply. Direct intervention seemed the fastest way to protect them. And you banished it rather than destroyed it, Logos noted, consulting one of his Starlight Scrolls. An interesting choice. Destruction isn't always necessary, Goku replied, thinking of the many opponents in his life who had eventually become allies. The important thing was stopping the immediate threat to those people. Axiom stepped forward, towering over Goku despite his own considerable divine height. Your mortal perspective blinds you to broader implications. The Void Walkers serve the eschaton, whose cosmic function opposes creation itself. Mercy towards such entities endangers the fundamental balance. If mercy endangers balance, Goku countered calmly, then maybe the balance needs reconsideration. A shocked silence fell over the confluence. Even Avum's cosmic energy field pulsed with surprise at his boldness. Tempest, standing slightly behind Goku, shifted her weight subtly into a more defensible position, as though expecting Axiom to attack. Instead, unexpected support came from Thalassa, whose fluid form flowed closer. The new time god speaks truth, whether he realizes it or not. Rigi. Adherence to established balance has allowed threats to fester beyond dimensional boundaries. Fresh perspective may be precisely what creation requires in the coming cycle. The Saiyan lacks mental understanding of cosmic principles, Axiom insisted, though his tone held less certainty than before. Then educate me, Goku suggested earnestly. If there are things I need to understand to do this job properly, tell me. I'm a quick learner when the stakes matter. This simple, direct approach seemed to disarm the council's formal proceedings. After a moment of silent communication that occurred beyond even Goku's divine perception, Logos nodded and addressed him directly. Very well, Time God. The council will provide guidance to supplement Avum's instruction. Each of us will shaw wisdom from our respective domains to hasten your divine acclamation. I would counsel caution regarding earth attachments, Axiom added, his tone moderating slightly. Your former connections pose unique vulnerabilities, both to yourself and those you care for. The mortal realm remains sensitive to your divine resonance, Thalassa explained more gently. Direct visitation could trigger catastrophic temporal disruptions until your divine nature stabilizes fully. Goku nodded, the reminder of his separation from family and friends sending a pang through his divine consciousness. I understand, but eventually I'll be able to see them again, right? In time, Nyx confirmed, stars swirling more rapidly within its void form. Through careful manifestation, limited projection, but never as you were. Divinity changes perception permanently. There is another matter requiring immediate attention, ether interjected, stellar light pulsing urgently. Multiple dimensional incursions have been detected following the Void Walker encounter. The pattern suggests coordinated testing of defenses rather than random breaches. The Eschaton probes for weakness, Axiom stated grimly. Why? Our unconventional response to the first incursion has triggered accelerated surveillance. Then we'll be ready, Goku replied with characteristic determination. If these Void Walkers or the Eschaton want to threaten innocent people, they'll have to go through me first. His simple declaration seemed to resonate within the temporal nexus itself, the surrounding crystalline structures momentarily pulsing in harmony with his words. The council members exchanged glances laden with significance that Goku couldn't fully interpret. The Time God requires additional training before confronting coordinated incursions, Logos observed. Scrolls rearranging themselves around him. Avum, you will continue primary instruction. The council will provide specialized knowledge as needed. And the bladed answer? Axiom questioned, obsidian gaze shifting to Tempest, who met his look unflinchingly. Her presence in the nexus is irregular. The last of her kind should be relocated to an appropriate remnant dimension. I stay with Goku, Tempest stated firmly, stepping forward. My knowledge of Void Walker tactics already proved valuable in his first confrontation. I can continue to assist with practical applications of temporal defense. The Chrono Guard's methods were deemed obsolete 3 cosmic cycles ago, Axiom reminded her coldly. Your order's aggressive approach to timeline protect. Ion violated non-interference protocols repeatedly. And yet, Tempest countered, had those protocols been more flexible, perhaps my dimension wouldn't have been erased from existence while cosmic. Deities debated appropriate response procedures. The tension between them crackled with ancient grievance, but before Axiom could respond, Goku intervened. Tempest stays, he stated simply but with unmistakable divine authority. She's already helping me learn faster than I could alone, and her combat experience is valuable. If I'm responsible for maintaining the time stream, then I get to decide who assists me. Axiom appeared ready to object further when Nyx drifted between them, its void form pulsing with undefined meaning. The pattern shifts again, the mysterious entity observed. Old conflicts yield to new necessities. The bladed answer remains. Threads of destiny rewoven. Something in Nyx's cryptic statement seemed to carry special weight with the council. Axiom subsided, his golden veins dimming slightly in apparent resignation. Very well, Logos concluded, addressing Goku directly. We will reconvene in one divine cycle to assess your progress. Until then, heed Avum's guidance and prepare for further incursions. The stability of all realities rests upon your development, Time God. With formal nods that somehow conveyed both respect and lingering reservation, the council members retreated through their respective portals, which sealed behind them, returning the central confluence to its normal state. In the silence following their departure, Goku released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Despite his divine transformation, facing the collective judgment of entities who had existed since the dawn of creation proved surprisingly intimidating. That was intense, he remarked, turning to Avum and Tempest. Did they always communicate in riddles and cosmic pronouncements? You handled them remarkably well, Tempest observed, her usual reserve giving way to genuine approval. Most new deities are thoroughly cowed by their first council encounter. Indeed, Avam agreed, her cosmic energy field modulating to a frequency that suggested thoughtful reassessment. Your directness disrupted their standard evaluation protocols. Particularly interesting was Nyx's intervention regarding the Bladedancer's status. Tempest frowned slightly. Yes, that was unexpected. Nyx rarely involves itself in procedural disputes. Maybe it just recognized that we work well together, Goku suggested with characteristic optimism, though something in Nyx's cryptic comments about threads of destiny suggested deeper significance. Avam's energy field shifted in what might have been the cosmic equivalent of a shrug. Nyx perceives connections and patterns beyond even most divine comprehension. If it sees purpose in your continued collaboration, that purpose will reveal itself in time. Before Goku could pursue this further, a gentle vibratio ran through his divine consciousness, a sensation he was learning to recognize as his connection to Earth's timeline calling for attention. The feeling wasn't urgent like a crisis alert but more like a persistent reminder of something requiring investigation. Something's happening on Earth, he noted, focusing his perception toward his home planet. Not an emergency, but something unusual. Your sensitivity to your native timeline is exceptional, Avam observed. Most newly ascended deities require centuries to maintain such specific awareness amidst the cosmic tapestry. Goku extended his consciousness along the golden thread representing Earth, searching for the source of the subtle disturbance. His perception zoomed through continents until it focused on a research facility in West City, one associated with Capsule Corporation, though located on a separate campus. There, a woman in a laboratory coat stood surrounded by complex equipment that measured temporal fluctuations. What caught Goku's divine attention was the anomalous way time flowed around her, or rather, didn't flow. While normal temporal currents affected everything in her vicinity, they simply parted around the woman herself. Like water flowing around an immovable stone. That's impossible, he murmured, drawing Avam's attention. What do you perceive? The goddess asked, moving closer to share his temporal vision. A human woman on Earth who seems completely immune to temporal flow, Goku explained, focusing more intently. Time itself bends around her without affecting her directly. Avam's cosmic presence expanded with surprise. Show me. Goku channeled his perception through the staff, creating a viewing portal that displayed the laboratory and its unusual occupant. The woman appeared to be in her early 30s with short, dark hair streaked with premature silver at the temples. She moved with precise efficiency between instruments, occasionally pausing to record measurements in a tablet computer. What was visible to divine perception but would be invisible to mortal eyes was the way temporal energy, rendered as subtle golden currents in Goku's divine sight, flowed normally throughout the laboratory but curved around the woman completely, leaving her in what appeared to be a bubble of temporal stability. Fascinating, Avam murmured, her cosmic voice vibrating with increased interest. A temporal anchor. Extremely rare. What's a temporal anchor? Goku asked, unable to look away from the anomaly. A being whose personal timeline exists independently of the surrounding timestream, Avam explained. They serve as fixed points in reality, immutable constants that help stabilize dimensional boundaries during periods of temporal flux. I've never seen anything like it, Tempest remarked, studying the portal with professional interest. The Chrono Guard encountered similar phenomena but never in humanoid species. Is she dangerous? Goku questioned, noting how the woman seemed to be deliberately measuring the temporal distortions around herself. Not inherently, Avam replied, but extremely valuable. During periods of timeline instability, anchors prevent complete dimensional collapse by providing fixed reference points. They are cosmic constants in physical form. And she's studying herself, Goku observed. She knows she's different. A sudden realization struck him. The temporal disturbances from my ascension would be detectable to sensitive equipment. She's measuring the aftereffects of my transformation. A scientist investigating temporal anomalies who is herself a temporal anomaly, Tempest noted with a hint of irony. Interesting coincidence. There are no coincidences in cosmic design, Avam stated firmly. Her emergence, at this particular junction suggests significance beyond random occurrence. Goku studied the woman more carefully, noting her focused intensity and the way she occasionally glanced at her own reflection in the laboratory glass. as though confirming something about her own existence. I want to meet her, he decided suddenly. Avam's energy field contracted in alarm. Direct contact with Earth is inadvisable. Your divine resonance remains insufficiently stabilized for physical manifestation in the mortal realm. I didn't mean physically going there, Goku clarified, remembering the warning. GS about his divine presence potentially disrupting Earth's timeline. But maybe I could project an image. Just enough to communicate. Avam considered this request, her cosmic form shifting through various frequencies as she calculated potential risks. A limited projection might be possible, she finally conceded. Temporal anchors possess natural resistance to divine disruption. Communication with her would carry less risk than with ordinary mortals. I'll guide the projection, Tempest offered unexpectedly. The Chrono Guard developed techniques for non-disruptive communication with sensitive timelines. I can help modulate your divine energy to minimize impact. Goku smiled gratefully at her. Thanks, Tempest. Under their combined guidance, Goku focused his consciousness on Ting, a limited manifestation within the laboratory. Rather than transferring his full divine presence, he projected only a visual and auditory impression, a technique Tempest called temporal echoing. In the laboratory on Earth, the air shimmered briefly before resolving into a translucent, blue-tinged image of Goku in his divine form. The projection was insubstantial, more like a hologram than a physical presence, but clear enough to be visible to mortal eyes. The woman scientist froze, her hand hovering above a control panel as she stared directly at the manifestation. Unlike most humans who might panic at such an apparition, she merely adjusted her glasses and assessed the phenomenon with clinical interest. Fascinating, she murmured, reaching for a handheld device that presumably measured energy fluctuations. A coherent temporal projection with anthropomorphic configuration. Definitely connected to the recent disturbance patterns. She can see me but doesn't seem afraid, Goku observed through the connection. That's a good sign, right? Proceed with communication, Avam instructed. But maintain minimal divine presence. Goku focused on making his projection speak, carefully modulating his energy as Tempest had shown him. Hello, his image said within the laboratory. My name is Goku. The woman's eyes widened slightly, but her composure remained remarkably intact. Hello, Goku, she replied evenly. I'm Drive, Mira Weston. Am I correct in assuming you're connected to the temporal anomalies I've been monitoring for the past 72 hours? Her directness surprised Goku. Yes, actually, I recently became something called the God of Time. The transition caused some disturbances in the time stream. That's what you've been detecting. Dr. Weston nodded, as though this information merely confirmed a hypothesis rather than representing an extraordinary revelation. That explains the harmonic patterns in the chronometric displacement waves. They indicated a centralized consciousness rather than random fluctuations. She studied his projection thoughtfully. You appear human, or nearly so. I was born Saiyan, an alien race, but raised on Earth, Goku explained, finding her matter-of-fact approach refreshingly easy to deal with. I've lived here most of my life. Until 3 days ago, when I accepted this role to prevent reality from collapsing. Saiyan, she repeated, making a note on her tablet. That correlates with several theoretical models of developed regarding species with adaptive genetic potential. She looked up, fixing his projection with a penetrating gaze. Why are you contacting me specifically? I assume a deity has more pressing concerns than random scientists. You're not random, Goku replied. You're what Avam calls a temporal anchor. Time flows differently around you, or doesn't flow at all. I could see it from the temporal nexus. For the first time, Drive. Weston's professional composure faltered slightly. You can see it. The temporal immunity. Goku nodded. Golden currents of time flow around you but never touch you directly. You exist outside normal temporal progression. That's extremely rare, apparently. The scientist set down her tablet, her expression shifting from professional curiosity to personal intensity. I've known I was different since childhood. Temporal manipulation technology doesn't affect me. Time acceleration, deceleration, local loops, none of it works on me. I've been studying the phenomenon my entire career, but instruments can only detect so much. She approached the projection, studying it with renewed interest. If you can actually perceive temporal flow directly, the research possibilities are extraordinary. Through their connection, Tempest murmured a warning. Her proximity increases resonance between your projection and her anchor status. Be careful not to strengthen the connection too much. Heeding this advice, Goku maintained careful control over his projected energy. Dr. Weston, Mira, your condition is more significant than you realize. According to Avum, temporal anchors help stabilize reality during periods of flux. With everything that's happening now, you might be important to preventing timeline collapse. Avum, Mira questioned. Another deity, I presume. The celestial goddess of creation, Goku confirmed. She's been helping me understand my new role. Mira processed this information with remarkable equanimity. A pantheon of cosmic entities maintaining multidimensional stability, this confirms several theoretical models that my colleagues dismissed as unfalsifiable. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What exactly is happening now that requires timeline stabilization? Goku hesitated, unsure how much to reveal about the Void Walkers and the eschaton. Before he could decide, his divine senses detected a sudden disturbance, not on Earth but across multiple timelines simultaneously. The familiar sensation of GNESS that accompanied dimensional incursions prickled at his consciousness. Something's happening, he told Mira urgently. I need to go, but I'll contact you again soon. We need to talk more about your unique condition. Wait, Mira called, scientific enthusiasm giving way to genuine concern. Is Earth in danger? Should I warn anyone? Earth is safe for now, Goku assured her. The protectee field I created around my family should shield the surrounding region from any temporal backlash. But your immunity might be important later. Keep studying what you're studying. As the projection began to fade, Mira asked one final question. The instruments detected 17 simultaneous anomalies across the globe 3 days ago. Was that all you? Goku's fading image smiled slightly. That was just the beginning. There's a lot more to reality than most people realize. With those words, the projection dissolved completely, returning Goku's full consciousness to the temporal nexus where Avum and Tempest waited. The scientist handled divine contact remarkably well, Tempest observed. Most mortals experience psychological distress when confronted with cosmic realities. Mira's not most mortals, Goku replied. Still processing their interaction, her mind works differently, more like a puzzle solver than someone easily frightened. She's been studying her own condition for years. The anchor's scientific background may prove valuable, Avum acknowledged. But we have more urgent concerns. She gestured toward the central viewing array, which now displayed multiple locations across different universes. In each, similar disturbances were forming, cheers in reality with the distinctive energy signature of Voidwalker incursions. Coordinated attacks, Tempest stated grimly, automatically reaching for her energy blades. Just as the Council warned. 5 breaches forming simultaneously, Avum confirmed, her cosmic voice tightening. Beyond standard containment protocols, Goku studied the developing incursions, noting their strategic positioning. Unlike the random attack on Crystallis Prime, these breaches targeted specific temporal nexus points, locations W. Here multiple timelines converged and could be damaged simultaneously. They're learning, he observed. Testing our response capabilities by forcing us to divide attention between multiple locations. Standard Void Walker infiltration tactics, Tempest confirmed. First a single probe to assess defenses, then coordinated strikes to overwhelm response capacity. Goku considered their options. Divine mind processing strategies at incredible speed. We can't be in 5 places at once, at least, not physically. But maybe we don't need to be. An idea formed, drawing on his recent training in timeline perception and the combat instincts that had served him throughout his life. Avum, can I create multiple projections like the one I just used with Mira, but with greater interactive capability? The goddess's energy field pulsed with consideration. Theoretically possible, but dividing divine consciousness across multiple manifestations risks fragmentation of your still stabilizing divine nature. What if we anchor the projections to the primary timeline? Tempest suggested. Use your native reality as a stability reference, similar to how we approached perception training. Yes, Goku agreed enthusiastically, and instead of trying to fully control 5 separate projections, I could create echoes that react according to programmed intentions, like temporal afterimages that can interact independently. Avum's cosmic presence expanded with surprise. You're proposing temporal fragmentation, an advanced technique that most time gods require centuries to master. Is it possible? Goku pressed. Because those breaches are forming quickly, and we need to respond to all of them. Possible but dangerous, Avum cautioned. Failure risks scattering portions of your consciousness across multiple dimensions. Potentially permanently. I've faced worse odds, Goku replied with characteristic determination. Guide me through the process. Quickly. Recognizing the urgency, Avum's cosmic form enveloped Goku partially, creating a shared energy field that allowed direct transmission of divine knowledge. The sensation was disorienting, like having entire libraries of information downloaded directly into his consciousness, but Goku focused on extracting only what was needed for the immediate technique. You must maintain your primary consciousness here in the Nexus, Avum instructed. While creating 5 semi-autonomous projections with sufficient divine energy to interact with the incursions. Each projection requires precise calibration to the specific dimensional frequency of its target location. Under her guidance, Goku extended his perception to all 5 incursion points simultaneously, using his staff as a focusing tool. Drawing on the resonance training Tempest had taught him, he maintained his core awareness anchored to his native timeline while carefully separating 5 distinct aspects of his divine consciousness. The process felt like Yuli splitting a single flame into multiple torches without extinguishing the original fire. Delicate, precarious, but possible with sufficient control and energy management. Your divine energy is fragmenting successfully, Avum observed with surprise. Most new deities cannot maintain coherence during their first attempt. It's not so different from energy control techniques I used as a fighter, Goku explained. Continuing the careful separation, channeling ki into distinct attacks while maintaining overall combat awareness follows similar principles. As each fragment stabilized, Goku imprinted it with specific response parameters based on what he could observe of each incursion site. Rather than trying to directly control 5 separate manifestations simultaneously, an impossible task even for his divine mind, he created semi-autonomous projections programmed to counter the specific type of breach forming at each location. The projections are stabilizing, Tempest noted, monitoring the viewing array. But they'll need activation once you deploy them. I'll use a modified version of Kaioken, Goku decided, drawing on his mortal techniques once again. A momentary surge of divine energy to all 5 simultaneously, then maintaining baseline power while they operate independently. Unorthodox but potentially effective, Avum acknowledged. Proceed when ready. Gathering his divine power, Goku executed the modified technique. Divine Kaioken times 5. He called out, his form briefly flaring with golden energy that then separated into 5 distinct streams flowing toward the viewing portals. The effect was immediate and visually stunning. At each incursion point, a divine projection of Goku materialized, not merely visual images like the one he'd created for Mira, but semi-substantial manifestations capable of limited physical interaction with their environments. Through the viewing array, they watched as all 5 projections activated simultaneously, each confronting a partially formed breach where shadowy Void Walker limbs were already beginning to emerge. Unlike traditional divine responses that might have involved complex sealing rituals or defensive barriers, Goku's projections immediately went on the offensive, striking directly at the forming breaches with precisely targeted energy attacks that disrupted their dimensional anchoring. Remarkable, Tempest murmured, watching the coordinated counter-attacks. He's targeting their entry vector rather than waiting for full manifestation. Unconventional approach, Avum agreed, her cosmic voice betraying surprise. Most defensive protocols focus on containment after manifestation. On the viewing array, one projection executed a perfect Kamehameha wave directly into a forming breach, causing it to collapse in on itself before the Void Walker could fully emerge. Another used a spinning energy disk reminiscent of Krillin's Destructo disk to sever the dimensional tethers anchoring a breach to physical reality. The third projection employed a rapid series of precision energy strikes that resembled pressure point attacks, disrupting the mathematical sequencing of the breach formation. The fourth created a localized time dilation field that slowed the breach's development to a crawl, then systematically dismantled its structure. The fifth and final projection, facing the largest breach, performed a technique that combined aspects of divine energy and Saiyan power, creating a miniature sphere resembling a spirit bomb but composed of condensed temporal energy, which it Hen launched directly into the forming tier. In all 5 locations, the breaches collapsed before the Void Walkers could fully materialize, preventing the coordinated attack from gaining any foothold in physical reality. He did it, Tempest stated, unable to keep admiration from her voice. All 5 incursions neutralized simultaneously. Not merely neutralized, Avum observed, her cosmic energy field pulsing with what might have been the divine equivalent of impressed surprise. He reversed the breach mechanics to create backflow pressure into their origin dimension. The Void Walkers will find those entry points permanently sealed. As the immediate threat subsided, Goku recalled his divine projections, reintegrating the fragmented aspects of his consciousness. The process left him momentarily disoriented as the experiences of all 5 manifestations merged with his primary awareness. That was intense, he managed, steadying himself on his staff. Though his divine form required no physical rest, the mental strain of maintaining 5 separate consciousness fragments had tested even his enhanced capabilities. You performed temporal fragmentation successfully on your first attempt, Avum noted. Her cosmic tone carrying undisguised wonder. And applied it offensively rather than defensively. The Chronarch Council would consider this approach highly irregular. But effective, Tempest added pointedly. Conventional responses would have allowed at least some breaches to form completely, requiring more resource-intensive containment. Goku smiled slightly, the expression transforming his divine features to something more reminiscent of his former self. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. That was true when I was a fighter, and it seems to work for timeline protection too. Your martial background provides unexpected advantages, Avum acknowledged. Traditional divine training emphasizes procedural response and protocol adherence. Your NCTIVE adaptation circumvents established limitations. The Void Walkers won't expect such direct countermeasures from cosmic entities, Tempest agreed. Traditional divine response follows predictable patterns they've learned to exploit. Your approach introduces uncertainty into their strategic calculations. Though pleased by their assessment, Goku couldn't suppress a wave of fatigue that washed through his divine consciousness. Temporal fragmentation had demanded extraordinary focus and energy expenditure, taxing his still developing divine capabilities. Avum sensed his condition immediately. You require harmonic restoration. The chambers of celestial resonance will help reintegrate your fragmented divine aspects. I'll monitor the aftermath of the incursions, Tempest offered. Ensure no secondary breaches form while you recover. Goku nodded gratefully, following Avum through a crystalline archway that formed in response to her presence. The passage led to a chamber unlike any he'd previously encountered in the temporal nexus, a perfect sphere lined with faceted surfaces that reflected not light but temporal energy itself. Rest here, Avum instructed, guiding him to the chamber's center. Allow your divine consciousness to harmonize with the natural resonance. As Goku settled into a meditative position, the chamber responded to his presence, emitting subtle pulses of golden energy that synchronized with his own divine aura. The sensation was profoundly soothing, like slipping into a perfectly calibrated healing tank that restored not physical but spiritual and mental equilibrium. Avum remained nearby, her cosmic presence maintaining a respectful distance while ensuring his proper recovery. For several minutes, they existed in companionable silence, He chambers healing energies gradually restoring Goku's divine vitality. Thank you, he said finally, opening eyes that glowed with renewed golden light. This place is amazing. The chambers of celestial resonance exist to restore divine harmony, Avum explained. All cosmic entities require occasional realignment, particularly after significant energy expenditure. Goku studied her cosmic form with newfound curiosity. Despite working closely with Avum since his ascension, he realized how little he actually knew about the celestial goddess herself. How long have you been doing this? He asked suddenly. Being the goddess of creation, I mean. The question seemed to surprise her, cosmic energy patterns shifting in unpredictable ways before stabilizing. I have existed since the first moment, she replied after a pause. Before time had meaning. Before measurement itself was conceived. That sounds lonely, Goku observed with characteristic directness. Again, her energy field fluctuated unexpectedly. Loneliness requires awareness of alternatives, she stated, though something in her cosmic voice suggested the answer was not as simple as her words implied. I simply, but you work with others. Goku pressed gently. The Chronarch Council, the previous god of time. You have relationships, interactions, functional associations required for cosmic maintenance, Avum replied, her tone becoming more formal. Divine entities coordinate responsibilities to ensure multiversal stability. Personal considerations are irrelevant. Goku considered this with skepticism. Even in his brief time as a divine being, he'd observed enough interactions between cosmic entities to recognize politics, personalities, and complex histories underlying their formal protocols. I don't believe that, he stated simply. Everyone needs connections, even gods. Maybe especially gods. Avum's cosmic form contracted slightly, as though his words had touched something sensitive. For a long moment, she remained silent, her energy patterns shifting through frequencies Goku couldn't fully interpret. It was not always as it is now, she finally admitted, her cosmic voice softening to harmonics Goku hadn't heard before. In earlier cycles, divine interaction carried different qualities. Less rigid formality, greater collaboration. What changed? Goku asked, sensing he was glimpsing something few were permitted to see. Avum's form shifted, expanding to fill more of the chamber as though physical proximity provided emphasis for her words. Crisis. Conflict. The third recursion nearly collapsed all realities when divine entities allowed personal considerations to influence cosmic decisions. You're talking about emotions, Goku clarified. Divine beings caring too much and making mistakes because of it. Simplified but essentially correct, Avum acknowledged. The Chronarch Council established separation protocols following that crisis. Cosm. I see entities maintain functional distance to ensure objective decision-making. That sounds terrible, Goku said with characteristic bluntness. Living forever without real connections. No wonder cuz Mike beings seem so detached from what really matters. Instead of taking offense, Avum's energy field pulsed with what Goku was beginning to recognize as rueful acknowledgement. You perceive more than expected, Time God. The cosmic hierarchy maintains stability at significant cost to those who serve within it. Including you, Goku observed softly. I am creation, Avum replied, a subtle harmonics of loneliness finally evident in her cosmic voice. My function transcends individual existence. I bring forth universes, dimensions, entire realities, but experience them only through distant observation. That's why you seemed so surprised when I spoke directly to the council, Goku realized. Because no one just talks to each other anymore. Everything's protocols and cosmic procedures. Your directness is disruptive, Avum admitted, and perhaps necessary. Before Goku could respond, a subtle vibration ran through the temporal nexus, not an alarm, but a notification of Tempest's approach. Moments later, the crystalline chamber reconfigured to admit the white-haired warrior, her expression serious. The breach sites are fully secured, she reported, but I've detected another anomaly requiring immediate attention. Fully restored by the chamber's energies, Goku rose to his feet. Another Void Walker attack? No, Tempest shook her head. Something different. A temporal signature unlike anything in recorded history, not an incursion from outside, but a spontaneous formation within the timestream itself. Avum's cosmic presence expanded dramatically, her energy field pulsing with urgency. Show us. Tempest led them back to the central viewing array, which now displayed a region of seemingly empty space between universes 3 and 4. Within this void, a phenomenon was taking shape, a swirling vortex of temporal energy that bent and twisted in patterns that defied standard physics. It began approximately 12 minutes ago, Tempest explained. Initial readings suggested a standard temporal eddy, but the energy signature rapidly evolved into something unprecedented. Goku studied the phenomenon with his divine senses, immediately recognizing its uniqueness. Unlike the chaotic disruption of Void Walker breaches, this vortex possessed internal harmony, complex but orderly, like a symphony composed of temporal frequencies. It's beautiful, he murmured, unconsciously reaching toward the viewing portal. Not destructive, creative, impossible, Avum stated, though her cosmic voice held uncertainty. Spontaneous temporal entities cannot form without catalyzing consciousness. All temporal beings are either ascended mortals or manifestations of cosmic will. Yet there it is, Tempest noted, gesturing to the swirling vortex that continued growing more defined. Forming consciousness without external direction. As they watched, the vortex began consolidating, its swirling energies gradually coalescing into a more defined shape, still amorphous but increasingly anthropomorphic. Within its center, something like awareness flickered into existence, a nascent consciousness taking its first tentative steps toward self-realization. A temporal anomaly achieving sentience. Avum whispered, her cosmic voice vibrating with wonder. In all creation's long history, this has occurred only 7 times. Goku felt an inexplicable connection to the forming entity, not physical or even divine, but something more fundamental. As if recognizing this connection, the swirling vortex oriented toward the viewing portal, its newly forming consciousness reaching outward in wordless recognition. It's responding to you, Tempest observed with surprise. Recognizing the god of time specifically. It's more than that, Goku replied softly. His divine senses perceiving deeper patterns. This entity isn't just forming by chance. It's connected to the recent changes in the time stream, to my ascension. Avum's cosmic presence expanded further as she analyzed the phenomenon. Chronos is passing and your unconventional ascension created unique harmonic patterns throughout the multiverse. This entity appears to be a manifestation of those specific temporal frequencies, a child of transition. A child, Goku repeated, the concept resonating deeply. Born from the change in time gods. As if confirming his words, the vortex continued consolidating, its form becoming increasingly defined. Though still composed entirely of temporal energy rather than physical matter, it now clearly resembled a small humanoid figure with large, curious eyes that shone with inner light. We should contain it for study, Tempest suggested cautiously. Unpredictable temporal entities can cause significant disruption, even unintentionally. No, Goku responded immediately. Something protective rising within him. It's not dangerous. It's new, innocent, learning. Avum studied both Goku and the forming entity with increasing interest. The resonance patterns are unmistakable. This being is harmonically attuned to your specific divine signature, a temporal echo of your ascension-given independent existence. What does that mean? Goku asked, unable to look away from the small entity that seemed equally fascinated with him. In simplest terms, Avum explained, this entity exists because you exist as time god. It is a unique consequence of how you specifically assumed the divine mantle, a temporal child born from your particular transition. The implications of this statement struck Goku deeply. Despite his divine transformation, he had assumed his connections to concepts like family and creation would remain theoretical rather than literal. Yet here was an entity whose very existence was tied to his ascension, a being that would never have formed had someone else become time god. I need to go to it, he decided firmly. Not just observe from here. Caution is advisable, Tempest warned. Even benign temporal entities can cause disruption through inexperience. I'll be careful, Goku promised. But I need to establish direct contact. After a moment's consideration, Avum nodded. The entity's harmonic attune, meant to your divine signature should minimize interaction risks, but maintain protective resonance in case its nascent consciousness reacts unpredictably. With coordinates from the viewing portal, Goku shifted his divine presence to the void between universes where the temporal entity continued forming. Up close, the phenomenon was even more extraordinary, a swirling symphony of golden energy gradually taking shape, with patterns that mirrored Goku's own divine aura. As he approached, the small entity oriented toward him immediately, its partially formed features expressing what could only be described as joy. It reached out with tendrils of pure temporal energy that brushed against Goku's divine aura like curious fingers. Hello, Goku said softly, allowing his divine energy to mingle gently with the entity's forming consciousness. I'm Goku. Though the being couldn't speak yet, its response came as pulses of harmonic energy that Goku's divine senses interpreted clearly: recognition, happiness, belonging. It recognized him at a fundamental level, as though his existence was written into its very nature. Through their divine connection, Goku perceived flashes of the entity's forming perspective, a consciousness experiencing reality for the first time, simultaneously ancient and newborn. It perceived time not as linear progression but as infinite, interconnected patterns of possibility. With Goku himself representing a stable constant amid cosmic flux. It understands what you are, Avum observed, having followed Goku to the phenomenon. Beyond language or conventional thought, it recognizes your divine function instinctively. And more than that, Goku replied, continuing the gentle energy exchange with the forming entity. It feels familiar, like meeting someone you've known before but can't quite remember. The small being continued reaching toward him, its form becoming increasingly defined through their interaction. What had been an amorphous swirl of energy now possessed distinct features, a childlike face with large, luminous eyes that contained swirling galaxies, delicate limbs composed of condensed temporal particles, and an aura that pulsed in perfect harmony with Goku's divine resonance. Extraordinary, Tempest murmured, maintaining a respectful distance. It's adapting its form in response to your divine pattern, seeking compatibility for sustained interaction. Through their growing connection, Goku sensed the entity's nameless nature, its desire for identity and definition. The concept of naming held special significance in divine cosmology. To name something was to define its nature and purpose within the greater order. You need a name, Goku realized, studying the small being's swirling temporal essence. Something that reflects what you are. Avum moved closer, her cosmic presence extending careful analytical tendrils toward the entity. Its temporal signature exists simultaneously in past, present and future, a living embodiment of time's circular nature. In ancient divine terminology, such beings were called eons. Eon, Goku repeated, the name resonating perfectly with the entity's nature. Is that who you are? Eon. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The small being's form pulsed with brilliant golden light, temporal energy swirling faster as it embraced the identity offered. Through their connection, Goku felt its joyful acceptance. As though the name completed something essential in its forming consciousness. Eon it is, then, Goku confirmed with a smile, reaching out to gently touch the small entity's glowing form. The moment of contact created a harmonic resonance that rippled through the surrounding void. Eon's form stabilized further, the swirling temporal energy crystallizing into a more defined shape, still composed of pure temporal essence rather than physical matter, but now possessing consistent form and features. The naming bond is complete, Avum observed with what sounded like wonder in her cosmic voice. It has accepted both identity and connection to you as Time God. Tempest approached cautiously, studying the newly named entity with professional assessment. What will you do with it now? Newly formed temporal beings typically require centuries of guided development before independent existence is possible. Before Goku could respond, Eon made the decision for them. The small being moved closer to him, its temporal essence interfacing directly with his divine aura in a gesture unmistakably similar to a child seeking protection. Through their connection, Goku felt its wordless communication, trust, dependence, and a desire to remain near the familiar resonance of his divine presence. Eon comes with us, Goku stated simply, extending his divine rod to partially encompass the small entity. Back to the temporal nexus where it's safe. Avum's cosmic presence shifted in what might have been concern. Introducing an unclassified temporal entity to the nexus carries significant unknowns. The Chronarch Council will demand extensive analysis before granting residence permission. Eon isn't a security risk, Goku replied firmly, protective instincts rising. And the nexus belongs to the god of time, right? That means I decide who stays there. The directness of his response seemed to surprise both Avum and Tempest. After a moment's consideration, the creation goddess's energy field modulated to a frequency suggesting reluctant agreement. As you wish, Time God. But expect considerable discussion when the council learns of this development. With gentle guidance, Goku helped Eon understand the process of shifting location between dimensional points. The small entity learned quickly, harmonizing its temporal frequency with Goku's divine signature as they transitioned back to the temporal nexus together. Upon their arrival, the crystalline structures of the nexus responded immediately to Eon's presence, reconfiguring to create a smaller chamber adjacent to Goku's divine quarters, perfectly attuned to the entity's unique temporal signature. The nexus recognizes it as belonging here, Tempest observed with surprise. Responding as though to a native entity rather than a visitor. Because Eon was born from the same temporal shift that made me Time God, Goku reasoned, watching as the small entity explored its new surroundings with childlike wonder. We're connected at a fundamental level. Avam's cosmic presence expanded thoughtfully as she observed the interaction. In all of creation's long history, I have witnessed the birth of only 7 spontaneous temporal entities. Each emerged during periods of significant cosmic transition, and each played unexpected roles in subsequent developments. What happened to the others? Goku asked, watching Eon examine a crystalline formation with curious intensity. 3 ascended to join the Chronarch Council, Avam replied. 2 chose mortal existence and eventually faded. 1 became a wanderer between dimensions, occasionally glimpsed but never constrained. And the last, she paused, her cosmic voice taking on a darker tone. The last became the entity now known as Kairos, the rejected candidate for God of Time, Goku recalled from earlier discussions. The one seeking revenge. Indeed, Avam confirmed. Born during a previous divine transition, Kairos developed temporal manipulation abilities that rivaled divine capability. When denied ascension to godhood, its perspective darkened. You're worried Eon might follow a similar path, Goku realized, understanding her caution. I merely note that temporal entities develop according to their experiences and influences, Avam replied diplomatically. Your connection to this one represents both opportunity and responsibility. Watching Eon's innocent exploration of the Nexus, Goku felt the weight of that responsibility settling upon him. Beyond his duties to maintain the time stray and protect reality from threats like the Void Walkers, he now faced the nurturing of a newly formed consciousness, a being whose development would reflect his guidance and example. I've raised 2 sons, he said quietly. I know something about helping someone grow into their potential. Tempest, who had been observing silently, spoke up with unexpected gentleness. Your sons had the luxury of normal development within a stable timeline. Eon exists outside conventional progression, simultaneously new and ancient, learning and knowing. The challenges will be different. Then I'll learn as we go. Goku replied with characteristic determination. That's what parenting is anyway, right? Figuring things out together. As if sensing it was being discussed, Eon floated back to Goku's side. Its galaxy-filled eyes studying him with innocent curiosity. Though the entity couldn't yet speak in conventional terms, its temporal energy pulsed with questions. About existence, about purpose, about the nature of time itself. Through their connection, Goku attempted to address these wordless inquiries as best he could. Not with complex cosmic theory or divine pronouncements, but with simple truths as he understood them, about protection, about responsibility, about the importance of connection. Watching this exchange, Avam's cosmic presence shifted through frequencies suggesting complex emotional response. Something between wonder, concern, and perhaps a touch of envy at the natural connection forming between the time god and the temporal child. The nexus grows quiet, Tempest eventually noted, gesturing toward the central viewing array where the aftermath of the Void Walker incursions showed stabilizing timelines. The coordinated attacks have ceased for now. They'll be back, Goku stated with certainty. This was just a test, probing our defenses, learning our response patterns. Indeed, Avam agreed. The eschaton seldom commits significant resources to initial engagements. This was merely reconnaissance. Then we use this time to prepare, Goku decided, unconsciously placing a protective hand near Eon's glowing form. I need to master more advanced techniques before they launch a full-scale assault. Avam's cosmic energy field pulsed with approval. Wise assessment. Tomorrow we will begin instruction in temporal recursion, techniques that allow manipulation of cause-effect relationships without timeline fracturing. And I can teach combat applications of time distortion, Tempest offered. The Chrono Guard developed methods for weaponizing temporal physics against entities that exist outside normal causality. Eon's temporal essence swirled with excitement at their discussion, clearly eager to participate in the learning process despite its nascent state. Through their connection, Goku sensed the entity's desire to understand, to grow, to become something more than merely a cosmic accident. We'll all learn together, he assured the small being. That's what families do. The word, families, seemed to resonate through the temporal nexus itself, crystalline structures briefly pulsing in harmonious response. Avam's cosmic presence expanded slightly in what might have been surprise, while Tempest's expression softened momentarily before returning to its usual alertness. As Aeon settled contentedly beside him, temporal essence glowing with peaceful harmony, Goku contemplated the strange new existence he'd entered. In less than 4 days, he had transformed from mortal warrior to cosmic deity, battled extradimensional threats, encountered a council of ancient gods, discovered a time-immune scientist, and now become guardian to a newborn temporal entity. Yet amid these extraordinary developments, something familiar remained, the same determination to protect, to grow stronger, to face whatever challenges arose with unwavering resolve. The scope had expanded beyond imagination, but the essential purpose remained unchanged. In the crystalline vastness of the temporal nexus, as golden time streams flowed around them in perfect cosmic order, the god of time and his temporal child watched over reality together, one vast consciousness learning its new purpose. One new consciousness discovering existence itself. And somewhere within the infinite expanse of creation, unseen forces gathered, watching, waiting for the right moment to test this unconventional new guardian and the unexpected family forming around him. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, The Anomaly's Awakening. Golden light danced across the crystalline spires of the temporal nexus, casting prismatic reflections that shifted between past, present, and future simultaneously. Goku stood at the edge of what Avum called the observation terrace, a platform suspended above an infinite abyss of swirling time streams. Each current represented thousands of interconnected realities flowing in harmony, their golden luminescence hypnotic in its perfect mathematical precision. Beside him floated Aeon, her form gradually solidifying over the weeks since her spontaneous emergence. Though still composed primarily of temporal energy, she had developed more defined features, a delicate face with large, expressive eyes containing swirling galaxies, slender limbs that occasionally became transparent when she grew excited, and hair that resembled liquid starlight, constantly flowing as though underwater. "Why does that timeline curve differently than the others?" she asked, her voice a harmonic blend of tones that somehow conveyed childlike curiosity despite its otherworldly quality. Goku smiled, still marveling at how quickly Aeon had developed speech. What began as pure emotional impressions had evolved into complex communication in mere days, a development Avum described as unprecedented acceleration. "That's a divergence point," he explained, pointing to where a golden thread split into multiple branches. "A moment where significant choices created different possible outcomes." Aeon's eyes widened, galaxies spinning faster with excitement. "Can we look closer?" Focusing his divine perception, Goku expanded the timeline in question, creating a viewing window that displayed the critical moment, a young woman standing at a crossroads, literally and metaphorically. In one timeline branch, she turned left toward a waiting vehicle. In another, she continued walking straight. In a third, she checked her communication device and turned back the way she came. 3 different choices, 3 different futures, Goku explained. In the first path, she meets someone who changes her life completely. In the second, she continues on her established course. In the third, an urgent message pulls her back to handle a family crisis. And they're all equally real? Aeon asked, fascinated by the branching possibilities. Each exists in its own vibrational frequency, Goku confirmed, recalling Avum's lessons. To the woman experiencing any single path, that reality feels complete and singular. But from our perspective, we can see all potential outcomes simultaneously. Aeon studied the diverging timelines with intense concentration. "I think I understand. It's like..." She paused, searching for a concept she could relate to, like music with different variations on the same theme. Goku nodded encouragingly. "That's a good way to think about it. The core melody stays recognizable, but each variation creates its own unique composition." The metaphor delighted Aeon, her temporal essence swirling faster with pleasure at being understood. Since her emergence, she had struggled to articulate her unique perception of reality, simultaneously experiencing past, present, and future without the linear progression most beings took for granted. "You're getting better at explaining cosmic concepts," came Tempest's voice from behind them. The white-haired warrior approached with her characteristic silent grace, bioluminescent markings pulsing subtly against her skin. "Much clearer than traditional divine instruction. I'm just trying to make sense of it myself," Goku admitted with a slight smile. Explaining helps me understand it better too. Tempest joined them at the terrace's edge, her expression softening as Eon greeted her with an enthusiastic wave of luminous energy. Despite her initial caution toward the temporal anomaly, the last Chrono Guard had gradually developed a protective attitude toward the childlike entity. Avum requests your presence in the convergence chamber, Tempest informed Goku. She's detected UAL activity in the Clarion sector that requires assessment. Another incursion? Goku asked, instantly alert. The past weeks had seen sporadic Void Walker breaches, never as coordinated as the initial 5-point attack, but persistent enough to suggest continued probing of defenses. Uncertain, Tempest replied. The signature differs from standard Void Walker intrusions. Avum described it as temporally inverted, whatever that means. Goku nodded, turning to Eon. Want to come along? Might be educational. The temporal entity brightened literally, her form glowing more intensely with excitement. Yes, please. I want to see how you identify temporal anomalies. As they traversed the crystalline corridors of the Nexus, Goku reflected on how quickly their unusual dynamic had developed. In less than a month since his ascension to godhood, he had assembled what could only be described as a cosmic family, Avum with her ancient wisdom and gradually thawing formality, Tempest and her warrior's perspective. Newly formed Eon with her innocent curiosity, and even drive. Mira Weston, with whom he maintained regular communication through dimensional viewing. The convergence chamber pulsed, with emerald light as they entered, a signal Goku now recognized indicated timeline analysis rather than immediate crisis. Avum's cosmic form hovered near the central viewing array, her energy pattern shifting through complex frequencies as she studied the display. Ah, Time God, she greeted, her cosmic voice resonating through the chamber. Over recent weeks, Goku had noted subtle shifts in her communication style. Less formal rigidity, more conversational flow, though still maintaining the distance her divine status seemed to require. Observe this temporal pattern. The viewing array displayed a region of space between universes 7 and 8, where a phenomenon unlike anything Goku had previously encountered was developing. Unlike the chaotic tiers of Void Walker breaches or the natural flow of timeline currents, this anomaly resembled a perfect sphere of absolute stillness, a bubble where time itself appeared to have ceased entirely. Temporal stasis field, Tempest observed, her expression darkening with professional concern. But self-contained and self-sustaining, that should be impossible without continuous energy input. Goku extended his divine perception toward the anomaly, carefully analyzing its structure. It's not just paused, he realized. Time inside that sphere is running backward while maintaining perfect isolation from surrounding temporal flow. Precisely, Avum confirmed, her cosmic presence expanding with approval at his accurate assessment. A time inversion bubble with quantum isolation barriers, technology beyond any currently existing civilization in 17 universes. Could it be the Void Walkers trying a different approach? Goku suggested, studying the perfect mathematical precision of the phenomenon. Unlikely, Tempest replied before Avum could respond. Void Walker techniques create chaotic disruption. This demonstrates an elegant mathematical understanding of temporal physics. Almost artistic in its execution. Eon drifted closer to the viewing array, her galaxy eyes widening as she perceived something the others had missed. It's breathing, she said softly. What do you mean? Goku asked, focusing more intently on the anomaly. The barrier, Eon explained, gesturing with tendrils of luminous energy. It expands and contracts in a rhythm. Like breathing. Very slow, but consistent. 7.3-second cycles. Avum's cosmic energy shifted dramatically, surprise rippling through her manifestation. The child is correct. Subharmonic pulsations at precise intervals. Her tone changed, taking on a quality Goku rarely heard, genuine concern. This is a signature I recognize. Whose? Tempest demanded, instinctively reaching for her energy blades. Kairos, Avum replied, the name hanging heavy in the crystalline chamber. Goku's expression hardened. Though he had yet to encounter the rejected Time God candidate personally, he'd learned enough about Kairos to understand the threat he represented, a temporal entity of immense power whose bitterness at being denied godhood had festered into dangerous obsession. Is he trying to break through into our reality? Goku asked, studying the anomaly with renewed concern. No, Avum responded, her cosmic voice resonating with certainty. This is not an intrusion attempt but a message, specifically crafted to attract your attention, Time God. A message, Goku repeated skeptically. Why not just communicate directly? Kairos operates through indirection and symbolic gesture, Avum explained. During his candidacy for Time God, he developed a philosophy that valued aesthetic presentation as much as functional purpose. This, she gestured toward the perfect temporal bubble, is his equivalent of formal introduction. It's beautiful, Eon observed innocently, earning surprised looks from the adults. What? It is. The mathematics are perfect, like a flower made of time. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Goku found himself smiling at Eon's perspective. You're right, he acknowledged. It is beautiful, even if it might be dangerous. How should we respond? Tempest asked, practical as always. Avum's cosmic presence contracted slightly in contemplation. Traditional protocol would dictate neutralization of unauthorized temporal constructs, particularly those created by entities of concern. But, Goku prompted, sensing hesitation in her cosmic voice. But, Avum continued, destroying this construct would likely be interpreted as hostility, potentially accelerating confrontation before you've completed essential training. And it's not actually harming anything, Goku observed, studying the perfectly isolated bubble. It exists in void space, affects no inhabited timelines, and maintains complete quantum containment. A deliberate choice, Avum confirmed. Kairos demonstrates both power and restraint simultaneously, showing capability without triggering defensive protocols. Goku considered the situation carefully. Though still adapting to divine perspective, his warrior's instincts remained sharp. If this is Kairos introducing himself, destroying his message would be like slapping away an extended hand. Might make things worse, not better, so we just ignore it? Tempest questioned skeptically. No, Goku decided. We acknowledge it, but on our terms. He turned to Avum. Can we send a response? Something that shows we received his message without seeming either threatened or dismissive. The creation goddess's energy field modulated to a frequency Goku now recognized as approval. A measured response demonstrates confidence rather than fear. Wise approach, Time God. What kind of response would be appropriate? Tempest asked, still watching the temporal bubble with professional wariness. Goku thought for a moment, then smiled as inspiration struck. Something simple but unmistakable. Extending his hand, he channeled divine energy through his staff, creating a small golden sphere of temporal energy. With precise control, he shaped it into a perfect replica of his power pole from his childhood, the extending staff that had been his first magical tool. A symbol of your mortal past, Avum observed with interest, and my willingness to meet challenges directly, Goku confirmed. With a gentle motion, he sent the golden symbol floating toward Kairos's temporal bubble. As the energy construct approached the inverse time field, something unexpected happened. Instead of simply making contact, the golden staff symbol was drawn into the bubble's rhythmic, breathing pattern, synchronizing perfectly with its expansion and contraction cycles. Within moments, the staff had been absorbed into the bubble's structure, becoming part of its mathematical perfection. While still maintaining its distinctive shape, he accepted it, Eon whispered with childlike wonder. Look, he's incorporating your symbol into his creation. Indeed, the temporal bubble now pulsed, with alternating patterns of its original inverse energy and Goku's golden power, creating a harmonious visual dialogue between the two temporal signatures. A positive response, Avum confirmed, surprise evident in her cosmic voice. Kairos acknowledges your greeting and returns it with respect. Unexpected. Maybe he's not as bitter as everyone assumes, Goku suggested optimistically. Tempest snorted softly. Or he's being strategic. Establishing communication before confrontation is basic tactical doctrine. Either way, Goku replied, this gives us time to prepare rather than rushing into immediate conflict. I'll take that as a win for now. As they continued monitoring the temporal construct, Eon drifted closer to it, her natural curiosity drawing her toward the mathematical beauty of the phenomenon. Through their connection, Goku sensed her fascination with the intricate temporal equations underlying the bubble's structure, a level of complexity that resonated with her innate understanding of time's fluid nature. Be careful, he cautioned gently. We don't know everything this construct can do. I'm just listening, Eon replied cryptically. It's singing. Before Goku could question this unusual description, Avum's cosmic presence expanded suddenly, her energy field pulsing with urgency. Multiple distortions detected, she announced, the viewing array, shifting to display several locations across different universes. Pattern indicates coordinated destabilization attempt. The peaceful moment shattered as the chamber's ambient light shifted from emerald to crimson, the Nexus's alert signal for active timeline threats. The viewing array expanded, displaying 7 distinct locations where golden timeline threads were beginning to unravel. Void Walkers, Goku asked, immediately shifting focus from Kyrus's message to the new threat. Negative, Tempest responded, analyzing the display with practiced efficiency. Energy signature indicates paradox entities, temporal disruption manifestations that feed on timeline instability. They're different from Void Walkers, Avum explained quickly, noting Goku's confusion. Where Void Walkers enter from outside reality, paradox entities emerge from within, born from contradictions in the timestream itself. Goku studied the developing threats with growing concern. Unlike the concentrated breach points of Void Walker incursions, these disturbances appeared as spreading fractures along timeline threads, causing reality itself to splinter where contradictions formed. They're targeting nexus points, he observed, recognizing the pattern from his training. Moments where multiple significant outcomes converge. Strategic targeting, Tempest confirmed grimly. Disrupt the nexus points, and entire timeline clusters destabilize simultaneously. Goku's divine mind processed possible responses, weighing various approaches against the specific nature of the threat. We need to stabilize all 7 points before the fractures spread beyond containment threshold. Temporal fragmentation would allow simultaneous response, Avum suggested, referencing the technique Goku had successfully employed against the Void Walker breaches. Too risky with paradox entities, Tempest countered quickly. They feed on divided consciousness, could potentially trap fragments of your divine essence in recursive loops. Eon, who had been studying the fracturing timelines with unusual intensity, suddenly spoke. You don't need to divide yourself, she said, her harmonic voice carrying unexpected authority. You just need to experience multiple timeframes simultaneously. All 3 turned to her, surprised by both her assertion and the confidence with which she delivered it. What do you mean? Goku asked, instinctively trusting her unique perspective. Time isn't linear, Eon explained, her form pulsing with excitement. That's just how most beings experience it. But you're the god of time. You can experience multiple moments as a single extended now. Her galaxy eyes widened with the importance of her insight. Don't split your consciousness. Expand it. Avum's cosmic energy rippled with surprise. Temporal coexistence, she breathed, the concept clearly significant. A technique theorized but rarely attempted due to cognitive demands. It requires perceiving multiple timeline points as simultaneous aspects of a single extended moment. Is it possible? Goku asked, already intrigued by the concept. For most beings, no, Avum replied. Even divine entities struggle with the cognitive dissonance of experiencing multiple timeframes simultaneously. But your unique mortal divine transition might actually facilitate the approach. Because I'm used to adapting to impossible situations, Goku realized. Thinking of countless battles where he'd pushed beyond presumed limitations. Precisely, Avum confirmed. Where traditional deities follow established protocols. Your instinctive adaptability creates novel solutions. Like seeing multiple opponents in battle, Tempest added, immediately grasping the parallel to martial arts. Not focusing on individuals sequentially but maintaining simultaneous awareness of all threats. Goku nodded, the concept clicking into place through familiar framework. Show me the 7 fracture points together, he instructed. Stepping toward the central viewing array. The display reconfigured, presenting all 7 destabilizing nexus points in a circular arrangement. Each showed a different civilization, different beings, different physical laws, yet all faced the same fundamental threat as timeline contradictions tore at the fabric of their reality. Guide me through the technique, Goku requested, gripping his staff. As golden energy began swirling around him. Instead of Avum, it was Eon who drifted closer, her temporal essence interfacing naturally with his divine aura. Don't try to be in 7 places, she suggested, her harmonic voice gentle. Instead, be in one extended now that encompasses all 7 moments. Time is a circle, not a line. Following her intuitive guidance, Goku closed his eyes and expanded his divine perception. Instead of dividing his consciousness as he had with temporal fragmentation, he began perceiving the 7 nexus points as aspects of a single continuous moment, different facets of a unified now. The sensation was disorienting at first, his consciousness resisting the contradiction of experiencing multiple distinct locations simultaneously. But gradually, guided by Eon's gentle encouragement and his own adaptability, the separate perceptions began merging into a single expanded awareness. "It's working," Tempest observed with quiet amazement, watching as Goku's divine aura shifted through prismatic colors, each corresponding to one of the 7 threatened timelines. "Extraordinary adaptation," Avam agreed, her cosmic voice carrying undisguised wonder. "He's achieving temporal coexistence on his first attempt." Within Goku's expanded perception, all 7 nexus points existed simultaneously, not as separate locations requiring divided attention, but as integrated aspects of a single extended moment. He could perceive each fracturing timeline with perfect clarity while maintaining cohesive awareness of all 7 simultaneously. In the first nexus, AC, Ristaline civilization faced extinction as temporal contradictions caused their biological crystallization process to both occur and not occur simultaneously, creating impossible beings caught between existence and non-existence. In the second, a world of energy beings found their consciousness fragmenting as their past decisions both did and did not manifest outcomes, creating memory paradoxes that threatened their cognitive cohesion. The third showed a water-based civilization where temporal contradictions were causing the fundamental laws of physics to fluctuate, alternately freezing and boiling their oceanic environment in erratic cycles. The fourth revealed humanoid beings whose timeline contradictions manifested as physical splitting, individuals literally dividing into multiple scions representing different choice outcomes, causing population chaos. In the fifth, a dimension of pure mathematical constructs experienced equation failure as temporal constants fluctuated, tending to unravel the foundational code of their reality. The sixth displayed a world where time itself had become visible, appearing as colored currents flowing through the atmosphere, now fracturing into contradictory patterns that physically tore the landscape apart. The seventh and final nexus showed a familiar sight, Earth, specifically West City, where dimensional barriers were weakening Und Capsule Corporation's Temporal Research Division. At its center stood Drive Mira Weston, her unique temporal immunity creating an island of stability amid growing chaos. Through his expanded awareness, Goku could perceive the paradox entities themselves, not physical creatures but conceptual contradictions given partial sentience. They manifested differently in each reality based on local perception frameworks, but their essential nature remained consistent, feeding on the energy released when causality itself fractured. "I can see them all," Goku communicated, his voice resonating strangely. As it expressed 7 simultaneous experiences. Each fracture has the same underlying pattern but manifests according to local dimensional constants. "Can you implement simultaneous stabilization?" Avam asked, her cosmic energy field pulsing with what might have been concern. "Yes," Goku replied with growing confidence as he adapted to the expanded perception. "But not through conventional methods. These aren't invasive entities that can be expelled, they're manifestations of contradiction within the timelines themselves. The paradox entities feed on timeline inconsistency," Tempest noted. "Standard protocol recommends eliminating the contradiction source to starve them of sustenance." "But that would mean erasing significant nexus points," Goku countered, perceiving deeper patterns within the fracturing timelines. "These aren't random contradictions, they're natural divergence points where multiple important outcomes converge." Eon, still connected to Goku's divine aura, suddenly brightened with understanding. "You don't need to remove the contradictions," she suggested, her harmonic voice vibrating with excitement. "You need to accommodate them, create space where multiple contradictory outcomes can coexist without fracturing reality." "Quantum superposition fields," Avam breathed, her cosmic voice carrying surprised approval. "Instead of forcing timeline compliance, create localized reality bubbles where contradictory states can exist simultaneously without violating dimensional integrity." "Exactly," Eon confirmed enthusiastically. Through their connected consciousness, Goku grasped the concept immediately. Rather than forcing each timeline to resolve its contradictions, essentially destroying alternative possibilities, he could create specialized dimensio null pockets where seemingly incompatible outcomes could coexist in quantum superposition. Channeling divine energy through his staff, Goku implemented this approach simultaneously across all 7 nexus points. In each location, golden energy flowed outward, creating precisely calibrated fields that enveloped the contradictory elements. Instead of collapsing possibilities to a single outcome, the safe fields allowed multiple reality states to exist in layered harmony, neither canceling each other nor creating destructive interference. In the crystalline civilization, beings caught between existe NCE states stabilized into a new form of life capable of shifting between solid and potential phases at will. Among the energy beings, memory paradoxes transformed into expanded consciousness, allowing simultaneous awareness of multiple decision paths. In the oceanic world, fluctuating physics stabilized into controllable cycles, creating new environmental niches that expanded rather than destroyed the ecosystem. For the splitting humanoids, multiple self-manifestations merged into quantum state beings capable of expressing different aspects of themselves as needed. The mathematical diamonds, Ion incorporated paradox equations into its foundational code, evolving more complex algorithmic structures that accommodated logical contradictions. On the world with visible time, fracturing current, TS reformed into intricate braided patterns, transforming destructive chaos into complex but harmonious flow. And on Earth, the weakening dimensional barriers around Capsule Corporation stabilized into controllable interface points. With Dr. Weston's natural temporal immunity serving as the anchoring reference. As the quantum superposition fields took effect across all 7 locations simultaneously, the paradox entities found themselves transformed rather than banished. Without destructive contradictions to feed upon, they evolved into something new, guardians of the quantum boundaries between possible realities, maintaining the very stability they once threatened. Gradually, Goku allowed his expanded perception to contract, returning to singular consciousness while maintaining awareness of the stabilized nexus points. The effort had been immense, not physically taxing but cognitively demanding in ways that even his divine mind found challenging. "You did it," Tempest stated, rare amazement evident in her voice. 7 simultaneous timeline stabilizations without erasure or compromise. Unprecedented methodology, Avam added, her cosmic energy pulsing with what Goku now recognized as genuine admiration. Traditional protocols would have sacrificed alternative timelines to maintain primary reality cohesion. Your approach preserved all possibility vectors. It was Eon's idea, Goku replied modestly, smiling at the temporal entity who hovered nearby, glowing with satisfaction. Seeing time as circular rather than linear made the solution obvious. Not to most beings, Avam countered. Even among cosmic entities, few could implement such complex manipulations on their first attempt at temporal coexistence. While Goku appreciated the praise, his attention had already shifted to the 7th nexus point, Earth, where Drive Weston stood at the center of what had nearly become a catastrophic temporal disruption. Through the viewing portal, he could see her studying the golden energy field with intense scientific curiosity, taking measurements with equipment clearly designed for temporal analysis. "I need to check on Mira," he said, moving closer to that particular display. Her immunity to temporal effects likely protected her, but she deserves an explanation. A direct communication would be appropriate, Avam agreed, surprising Goku with her ready acceptance. Dr. Weston's unique condition and scientific expertise may provide valuable insights regarding paradox entity manifestation in physical dimensions. With practiced ease now, Goku established a temporal projection similar to their previous communication. His image materialized in Myra's laboratory, where the scientist was already analyzing the golden energy field that had contained the temporal disruption. "Hello again, Drive Weston," his projection greeted. Unlike their first encounter, Mira showed no surprise at his appearance. She merely adjusted her glasses and continued recording measurements as she responded. "God of time, perfect timing, appropriately enough. These quantum superposition fields are fascinating. Your work, I assume." Goku couldn't help smiling at her matter-of-fact attitude. Yes, there was a temporal disruption forming, paradox entities emerging from contradictions in the timeline. I detected the distortion patterns approximately 7 minutes before manifestation, Mira confirmed. Setting down her instruments to give him her full attention. My equipment registered similar disruptions occurring simultaneously at 6 other locations across the multiverse. Though I couldn't pinpoint exact coordinates. You could detect events in other universes? Goku asked, impressed and slightly concerned. That's supposed to be impossible for mortal technology. Myra's lips curved in a slight smile. Nothing is impossible, merely improbable until accomplished. My temporal immunity provides unique perspectives on cross-dimensional phenomena. She gestured to equipment surrounding her. These instruments are calibrated to my personal temporal signature, essentially using me as a stable reference point to detect fluctuations in other realities. Through the connection, Goku heard Avum's cosmic voice with undisguised interest. Extraordinary innovation. She's using her anchor status to create fixed measurement parameters for multiversal observation. Your approach to the paradox entities was unusual, Mira continued, studying data scrolling across her monitors. Traditional temporal mechanics would suggest eliminating causal contradictions. Yet you somehow created stable fields where contradictory states coexist without reality fracture. It seemed better than erasing possibilities, Goku explained simply. Preserving options rather than forcing a single outcome. Myra's expression shifted subtly, professional interest warming with something like approval. A refreshingly non-binary approach to quantum causality. Most theoretical models assume contradiction requires resolution through collapse to a single reality state. Time isn't as rigid as most beings think, Goku replied, surprising himself with how naturally cosmic concepts now flowed from him. Possibilities can coexist when properly balanced. A perspective I've long advocated, Mira agreed, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. My research August's reality is fundamentally plastic rather than deterministic, capable of accommodating seeming contradictions through proper dimensional arrangement. As they discussed temporal physics, Goku ticked something unusual about Myra's laboratory, specifically, the equipment surrounding her. What he had initially taken for standard scientific instruments now revealed themselves as highly sophisticated temporal manipulation devices. Far beyond Earth's current technological capability. Your equipment, he observed carefully. It's not standard Earth technology, is it? Mira hesitated briefly, before responding with characteristic directness. No, most of it is my own design, based on principles intuited throughout my life. She gestured to a particularly complex apparatus emitting subtle pulses of energy. This chronometric harmonic analyzer operates on principles most physicists won't discover for centuries. Through their connection, Tempest murmured with professional suspicion. Her technology resembles advanced temporal monitoring systems from my dimension. Capabilities beyond her civilization's development stage. How did you develop this technology? Goku asked gently. Curiosity rather than accusation in his tone. Mira studied him for a long moment, as though deciding how much to reveal. I've always perceived temporal mechanics differently than others, she finally explained. Where conventional physics sees rigid causality, I naturally perceive multidimensional probability states. These devices translate my intuitive understanding into practical applications. Because of your temporal anchor status, Goku suggested. Possibly, Mira acknowledged. Though I suspect the relationship may be inverse, my immunity to temporal manipulation might result from my different perception. Rather than causing it, she adjusted her glasses, a gesture Goku was beginning to recognize as her way of transitioning to more significant revelations. There's something else you should know about the recent disruptions. What is it? Goku asked, noting the seriousness in her tone. They're increasing in frequency and complexity, Mira stated, pulling up a holographic display showing trend analysis. I've recorded 17 distinct temporal anomalies in the 3 weeks since your ascension to godhood, each more mathematically sophisticated than the last. Toda, Y's event represents a significant escalation, a coordinated multiversal manipulation that suggests strategic intent rather than random occurrence. Through their connection, Avum's cosmic voice darkened with concern. She's detected the pattern. The eschaton's systematic probing is becoming more apparent. You believe these anomalies are deliberate tests, Goku observed, studying the data Mira presented. The mathematical precision is too consistent for natural occurrence, she confirmed. Someone, or something, is systematically analyzing reality's response mechanisms, cataloging defensive patterns, and iteratively refining their approach. Her eyes met his directly through the projection. Like a scientist conducting increasingly complex experiments before implementing a final protocol. The assessment aligned perfectly with what the Chronarch Council had warned about the eschaton's methodical approach to universal destabilization. That Mira had independently reached the same conclusion from purely scientific observation was both impressive and concerning. You're right, Goku acknowledged, seeing no reason to hide this truth from someone already so perceptive. These aren't random events. There's an entity called the eschaton behind them, a being that embodies the concept of universal ending. Rather than showing fear at this revelation, Myra's eyes lit with intellectual fascination. A conceptual entity manifesting through mathematical manipulation of foundational reality constants. Fascinating. My models suggested something similar, though I lacked appropriate terminology to classify such a being. Her scientific detachment regarding cosmic threats was both refreshing and slightly concerning to Goku. The eschaton isn't just an academic curiosity, drive. Weston. It represents a genuine threat to all existence. Of course, she replied more soberly. But understanding its methodology is crucial to developing effective countermeasures. My analysis indicates these probing incidents follow specific mathematical progressions, each building upon data gathered from previous events. She manipulated the holographic display to show complex equations that somehow represented the pattern of temporal disturbances. There's a seven-fold symmetry to the algorithmic structure that suggests the eschaton operates on a base 7 numerical system, fundamentally different from our base 10 or binary computational methods. Through their connection, Avum's cosmic energy pulsed with surprised approval. She's correctly identified the eschaton's foundational mathematical framework, something most cosmic entities took millennia to recognize. This mortal's perceptive capabilities are extraordinary. Your analysis could be extremely valuable, Goku told Mira, an idea forming. Would you be willing to share your research directly with us in the temporal nexus? Your unique perspective might help us anticipate the eschaton's next moves. Myra's eyes widened GHTLY, the first hint of genuine surprise he'd seen from her. Visit the temporal nexus. That's possible for a mortal. In your case, yes, Goku confirmed. Your temporal anchor status makes you Nadu. Rally resistant to the disruptive effects that would endanger most mortals in cosmic realms. The scientist barely contained her excitement, professional composure momentarily giving way to pure intellectual enthusiasm. That would be unprecedented access to trans-dimensional mechanics. My research could advance by centuries. It might also help save reality, Goku added with a gentle smile. That too, of course, Mira agreed. Composing herself. When would this visit occur? I need to make arrangements, Goku explained. Creating a safe transit method for a mortal, even a temporal anchor, requires specific preparations. I'll contact you again soon with details. Mira nodded, clearly already mentally preparing for such an extraordinary opportunity. I'll compile my complete research findings for presentation. The implications of direct observation of cosmic temporal mechanics are, well, limitless. As their communication concluded and Goku's projection faded from the laboratory, he turned to Avum and Tempest with determination. Her insights could be invaluable, especially if the eschaton is using mathematical progression to plan its attacks. Bringing a mortal to T. Temporal nexus violates traditional protocols, Avum noted, though without the disapproval such an observation would have carried weeks earlier. However, exceptional circumstances may justify exceptional measures. The Chronarch Council will object, Tempest warned pragmatically. Let them, Goku replied with calm confidence. As god of time, the nexus falls under my authority. If Dr. West On's unique perspective can help us protect reality, their procedural concerns become secondary. Before either could respond, the viewing array suddenly pulsed with crimson light once more, another alert. But with different harmonic patterns than the paradox entity disturbances. The display shifted to show Kyrus's temporal bubble, which had begun expanding rapidly while maintaining its perfect mathematical precision. The message construct is changing, Tempest observed, instantly alert. Not just changing. Transforming, Avum corrected, her cosmic energy field pulsing with increased focus. It's becoming a dimensional gateway. Quote, indeed, the perfect sphere of inverted time was gradually flattening into a disk-like portal, its edges defined by complex equations that rotated in perfect synchronization. At its center, a window began forming, not into another physical location but into what appeared to be a realm of pure mathematical concept. Is it an attack? Goku asked. Divine energy. Why gathering around his staff in preparation for defense? No, Eon answered before Avum could respond. The temporal entity had been quietly observing the bubble since its transformation began, her Galaxy eyes tracking the mathematical patterns with unusual intensity. It's an invitation. Invitation to what? Tempest demanded, energy blades forming instinctively at her wrists. Conversation. Came a new voice, melodious and precise, each syllable perfectly timed with mathematical exactitude. Through the forming portal, a figure gradually took shape, not physically entering the temporal nexus, but projecting a precisely calculated image into their realm. Kairos appeared nothing like Goku had imagined. Where Avum manifested cosmic majesty and Kronos had embodied ancient wisdom, Kairos projected elegant precision. His form resembled a humanoid composed of clockwork mechanisms rendered in materials that shifted between platinum, diamond, and something like liquid mercury. Where eyes should be, complex chronometers ticked with perfect synchronization, and his movements created rippling temporal harmonics that resonated throughout the nexus. The new god of time, Kairos observed, his melodious voice carrying neither hostility nor warmth, merely perfect modulation. How interesting to finally meet the Saiyan warrior who achieved what I could not. Goku maintained calm readiness without displaying aggression. Kairos, your message was received. I'm assuming this is the conversation it was leading to. A sound like perfectly tuned crystal chimes emanated from Kairos, apparently his version of laughter. Direct and unembellished. How refreshingly different from traditional divine communication. The clockwork entity's chronometer eyes adjusted slightly, focusing on each present being in turn. The celestial goddess of creation, ever vigilant. The last chrono guard, impressively resilient. And, how fascinating, a spontaneous temporal entity in early development. His attention lingered on Eon, mechanical features shifting to express what might have been genuine curiosity. A child of transition, born from divine succession resonance. Extraordinarily rare. Why have you contacted us? Avum interrupted, her cosmic voice carrying carefully controlled neutrality. Kairos's clockwork form reconfigured slightly, components shifting with musical precision. Courtesy, primarily. A new god of time warrants formal acknowledgement from one who once sought the position. His chronometer eyes returned to Goku, especially one who has already demonstrated such unconventional approaches to temporal maintenance. If you're referring to the Void Walkers and Paradox entities, Goku replied evenly, I did what was necessary to protect innocent beings. Precisely my point, Kairos agreed, his mechanical features arranging into what might have been approval, where traditional cosmic protocol would have prioritized procedural response over effective intervention. You acted decisively and directly. Most refreshing. Through their connection, Tempest's voice carried warning. Be cautious. Kairos is known for manipulation through flattery. Your caution is understandable, bladed answer. Kairos remarked, apparently having detected their private communication. Your dimension paid the price for cosmic indecision. I would have intervened had I possessed authority. Tempest visibly stiffened. Easy claims to make in retrospect. Perhaps, Kairos acknowledged with mechanical grace. History offers no certainties about paths not taken. His attention shifted back to Goku. Which brings me to the purpose of this communication. I offer information you may find valuable regarding the Eschaton's current activities. Why would you help us? Goku asked directly, neither accepting nor rejecting the offer. Kairos's clockwork components reconfigured again, creating an expression that somehow conveyed genuine solemnity despite its mechanical nature. Because the Eschaton's ambitions extend beyond typical cyclical reduction. Its current methodology suggests intent for complete multiversal erasure rather than balanced contraction. Impossible, Avum interjected, her cosmic energy pulsing with concern. The Eschaton maintains cosmic equilibrium, ending what must end while preserving core reality frameworks for subsequent creation cycles. Traditionally, yes, Kairos agreed. His perfect timing never faltering. But recent pattern analysis indicates deviation from established parameters. The mathematical progression of its probing incursions follows exponential rather than arithmetic sequencing, suggesting culmination in complete systemic collapse rather than selective reduction. Through their connection, Avam's cosmic voice carried reluctant agreement. His assessment aligns with Dr. Weston's independent analysis. The seven-fold symmetry indicates comprehensive rather than selective targeting. Goku studied Kairos carefully, divine senses attempting to perceive beyond physical manifestation to underlying intent. Though caution remained appropriate, he detected no immediate deception in the clockwork entity's presentation. "What specifically have you observed?" he asked, deciding that information could be evaluated regardless of source. Kairos's mechanical features arranged into what might have been satisfaction at being taken seriously. With precise gestures, he created a complex mathematical construct within the portal connecting them, a multidimensional equation that somehow represented reality's foundational structure. The eschaton typically targets failing timeline clusters, he explained, highlighting specific portions of the equation that dimmed accordingly. Removing what cosmic arithmetic deems unsustainable while preserving core reality frameworks. However, the equation shifted, revealing new patterns. Current incursion vectors indicate simultaneous targeting of 17 key-dimensional anchor points, including several within supposedly protected reality spheres. Even to Goku's developing divine understanding, the implications were alarming. It's not pruning dying branches, it's attacking the roots themselves. Precisely, Kairos confirmed, clockwork components shifting with approval. A fundamental departure from established cosmic function. The question becomes, why? Eschaton doesn't deviate from purpose without cause, Avam agreed, her cosmic energy field contracting with concern. Something has altered its operational parameters. Or someone, Tempest suggested darkly. Kairos's chronometer eyes adjusted, focusing on the chrono guard with mechanical precision. Astute observation, bladed answer. External influence would explain the discontinuity in mathematical progression. You suspect the Void Walkers, Goku stated, connecting the pattern that Kairos was carefully outlining without directly stating. They serve the eschaton traditionally, Kairos acknowledged. But recent dimensional analysis suggests reversed influence flow. The mathematical signatures indicate the Void Walkers are imposing external operational parameters rather than simply executing established protocols. A cosmic coup, Avam translated, her energy field pulsing with alarm. The servants attempting to redirect their master's function toward total erasure rather than balanced reduction. That's why they're so interested in my approach to timeline defense, Goku realized. Traditional divine responses are predictable, they've learned to work around them. But my methods don't follow expected patterns. You represent an unquantified variable in their mathematical progression, Kairos confirmed. Your mortal-divine hybrid perspective creates defense mechanisms they cannot easily predict or counter. Quote, the implications settled heavily across the temporal nexus, crystalline structures dimming slightly as if reflecting the gravity of this revelation. If Kairos' assessment was accurate, and both Avam's cosmic knowledge and Myra's independent analysis suggested it was, then reality faced a threat more fundamental than mere timeline disruption. Why tell us this? Tempest asked, still visibly suspicious of Kairos's motives. What do you gain by warning us? The clockwork entity's components shifted into what might have been a philosophical expression. Contrary to cosmic rumor, I do not seek reality's destruction out of bitterness for denied godhood. My quarrel was with selection methodology, not existence itself. You wanted to be god of time, Goku observed. When they chose someone else, you felt betrayed. Betrayed implies emotional response, Kairos corrected with mechanical precision. I merely recognized systematic error in assessment protocols. The Chronarch Council prioritizes tradition over effectiveness, stability over adaptation. His chronometer eyes focused directly on Goku. Your selection, while unorthodox, suggests potential recognition of this systemic flaw. You embody change rather than stagnation. Through their connection, Avam's cosmic voice carried complex emotions. Kairos's assessment contains uncomfortable truth. The cosmic hierarchy has grown increasingly rigid over eons, prioritizing predictability over necessary evolution. So you're helping because you actually care about protecting reality, Goku suggested. Studying Kairos with new consideration. I care about cosmic function operating according to optimal parameters, Kairos replied, though something in his mechanical voice suggested the distinction might be semantic rather than substantial. Total erasure serves no mathematical purpose, it merely eliminates all possibility, including potential improvement. Before the conversation could continue, a sudden vibration shuddered through the temporal nexus, not the controlled alert of the monitoring system but a fundamental disruption of the divine realm itself. Crystalline structures throughout the chamber cracked momentarily before self-healing, and the viewing array flickered with unstable energy. "We're under attack," Tempest announced, energy blades flaring to full power. "Impossible," Avum countered, though her cosmic form contracted with concern. "The temporal nexus exists beyond conventional dimensional targeting. No external force should be capable of direct assault." "Unless," Kairos interjected, his clockwork form reconfiguring rapidly as he analyzed the disruption, "they aren't targeting the nexus itself but the connection points between divine and mortal realms." The viewing array stabilized, displaying multiple locations across Earth where golden energy flared chaotically, the protective fields Goku had established around his family and friends during his ascension. Each was under simultaneous assault from what appeared to be concentrated void energy that ate away at the divine protections like acid through metal. "They're attacking my connections to Earth," Goku realized with growing horror. "Trying to sever my remaining ties to mortal existence." "Standard undermining strategy," Tempest confirmed grimly. "Isolate the target from emotional anchors before primary assault." Through the viewing array, Goku watched as the protective fields around his family home flickered dangerously. Within, Chi-Chi moved about her daily routine, complete. Lee unaware that the invisible barrier protecting her from temporal disruption was rapidly failing. In another window, Gohan's residence showed similar deterioration, the void energy concentrating particularly around his young daughter, Pan. "I need to reinforce those protections immediately," Goku stated, divine energy gathering around him in preparation for long-distance intervention. "Wait," Kairos interrupted, his mechanical voice carrying urgent precision. "This is not random assault but calculated diversion. While you focus on protecting mortal connections, their primary attack will target elsewhere." Even as he spoke, the viewing array revealed new disruptions forming, this time directly targeting the weakest points in Universe 7's timeline structure. Unlike the careful probing of previous incursions, these attacks struck with devastating force, creating catastrophic fractures in reality's foundational framework. "He's right," Avum confirmed, her cosmic energy expanding with alarm. "This is coordinated strategy, emotional manipulation combined with structural assault. They're forcing division of response resources." Goku faced an impossible choice: reinforce protections and his loved ones or address the fundamental timeline fractures threatening entire dimensions. Divine perspective showed both as equally critical, creating a paralyzing dilemma that his enemies had clearly anticipated. "You cannot effectively address both simultaneously," Kairos observed, his mechanical features arranging into what might have been sympathy. "Even divine capability has limitations when targets are specifically selected for maximum division of resources." "I can help," came an unexpected voice. All turned to see Aeon floating forward, her temporal essence swirling with determined purpose. "I can maintain the protective fields while you address the timeline fractures." "Aeon," Goku began uncertainly, "that would require projecting your consciousness across multiple locations simultaneously. You're still developing. The strain could damage your forming identity." "I exist across multiple temporal states naturally," Aeon replied with simple confidence. "This is what I am. What I was formed to be, a bridge between possibilities." Before anyone could object further, Aeon's form began shifting, not dividing like conventional projection but somehow existing in multiple loca. Tions simultaneously without diminishment. Her temporal essence interfaced with the failing protective fields around Goku's family and friends, reinforcing their structure with her innate temporal stability. "The child achieves natural temporal coexistence," Kairos observed with mechanical wonder. "Extraordinary capability for such a recently formed entity." With Aeon stabilizing the protective fields, Goku could focus fully on the timeline fractures threatening Universe 7's foundational structure. Channeling divine power through his staff, he prepared to address the coordinated assault, but before he could implement countermeasures, a new presence manifested within the temporal nexus. Unlike Kyrus's carefully constructed portal or the violent disruption of an attack, this arrival came as gentle luminescence that coalesced into humanoid form. A woman appeared, tall and ethereally beautiful with silver hair that seemed to contain constellations and eyes of deep violet that held ancient wisdom. Her simple white garments somehow suggested both mortality and divinity simultaneously, as though existing in the liminal space between cosmic and physical realms. Selene, Avum breathed, recognition and surprise evident in her cosmic voice. The newcomer inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement. Celestial goddess, it has been some time since we last conversed. 7 cosmic cycles, Avum confirmed. Since your choice to embrace mortality. A decision I have never regretted, Selene replied with quiet dignity, before turning her attention to Goku. Time God. The patterns repeat themselves once more. Though with fascinating variations. I come with warning and opportunity. Who are you? Goku asked directly, divine senses detecting something unique about this being. Neither fully mortal nor completely divine, but something beautifully balanced between both states. Once, I was the guardian of reality, Selene explained, her voice carrying melodic resonance that somehow soothed the chaotic energies swirling throughout the nexus. A cosmic entity tasked with maintaining the boundaries between dimensional planes. Centuries ago, I chose to experience mortality directly rather than merely observing it from divine distance. Yet you retain access to cosmic awareness, Tempest observed with professional assessment. Some aspects remain, Selene acknowledged. Enough to recognize when ancient cycles begin repeating themselves. Her violet eyes focused on the viewing array displaying the timeline fractures. The eschaton moves according to patterns established before recorded cosmic history. I have witnessed this progression 17 times across different reality iterations. You know how to stop the attacks? Goku asked hopefully. Not stop, Selene corrected gently. Redirect. The eschaton cannot be prevented from fulfilling its cosmic function, but its methodology can be influenced toward balance rather than annihilation. With graceful movements, she approached the viewing array, hands weaving complex patterns that somehow altered the display to show deeper reality layers beneath the visible fractures. The Void Walkers attack timeline anchors sequentially, following mathematical progression dictated by vulnerability assessment. However, her fingers traced specific connection points between fractured sections. These junctions are present natural cosmic boundaries, immune to conventional disruption techniques. Dimensional firewalls, Kyrus observed through his still-maintained portal, clockwork features arranging with new understanding. Cosmic constants that define reality's foundational architecture. Precisely, Selene confirmed, by reinforcing these natural boundaries rather than directly opposing the fractures themselves. You create containment zones that preserve essential timeline integrity while allowing controlled dissolution of unstable regions. Goku studied the pattern she indicated, divine perceptio. Recognizing the elegant simplicity of her approach. Rather than fighting the eschaton's attacks directly, a battle potentially unwinnable given the cosmic entity's fundamental nature, she proposed were king with reality's natural structure to channel the destruction into paths of minimal essential damage. It's like directing a flood rather than trying to stop the rain, he observed, martial instant. Court immediately grasping the strategic principle. Using the opponent's force against them by controlling its direction. A most apt metaphor, Selene agreed with approving smile. Your martial bag, round serves cosmic function better than millennia of traditional divine training might have. Without further hesitation, Goku implemented her suggested approach. Channeling divine energy through his staff. He focused not on the fractures themselves but on the dimensional boundaries Selene had identified. Golden power flowed outward, reinforcing cosmic constants and natural reality junctions in precise patterns that created resilient frameworks throughout the threatened timelines. As these reinforced boundaries established themselves, the fracturing energy began naturally redirecting, flowing around essential timeline clusters rather than through them, finding paths of lesser resistance that led to already failing or redundant reality sectors. It's working, Tempest observed with surprise. Watching as the catastrophic reality collapse transformed into controlled, localized dissolution that left core timeline structures intact. Elegant solution, Kyrus noted, his mechanical voice carrying what might have been genuine admiration. Cosmic triage rather than blanket defense, preserving essential reality architecture while conceding non-critical regions. As the immediate crisis stabilized, Goku turned to Selene with grateful acknowledgement. "Thank you. Your guidance saved countless timelines. This is merely the opening gambit in a much longer game," Selene cautioned. "Thou." Her violet eyes carried warm approval. "The eschaton will analyze response patterns and adjust strategy accordingly. Each intervention must evolve as challenges escalate." "How do you know so much about cosmic defense?" Goku asked, studying this being who existed between mortal and divine realms. A shadow of something like sorrow passed briefly across Selene's serene features. "Long ago, Ved, a god of time who faced similar challenges. We developed these techniques together during the sixth recursion, when the eschaton first displayed deviation from balanced function." Through their connection, Avum's cosmic voice carried complex emotions. "Chronos," she stated simply. "Before my time as creation goddess." "Indeed," Selene confirmed, meeting Avum's cosmic gaze with dignified acknowledgement. "Before protocols dictated emotional separation between cosmic entities. Before duty was deemed incompatible with connection. The revelation hung in the crystalline chamber. This serene being had once loved Goku's predecessor, the ancient entity who had passed the divine mantle to him. Somehow, this personal connection added deeper significance to her timely intervention." "You chose mortality," Goku observed quietly. "Was that because of him?" "Because of myself," Selene corrected gently. "Divine perspective, while vast, remains limited by its very nature. I wished to experience, rather than merely observe, to understand joy, pain, love, and loss as participants rather than witnesses." Her violet eyes held Goku's with quiet intensity. "Something you uniquely understand, Javi. Ing lived as mortal before ascending to godhood." Before Goku could respond, Eon's consciousness returned to the Nexus, her form reconsolidating after successfully stabilizing the protective fields around his family. "They're safe," she announced, her harmonic voice tired but satisfied. "The void energy has been neutralized, and I reinforced the protective barriers with multiphasic temporal shielding." "You did wonderfully," Goku told her warmly, divine energy extending to support her clearly exhausted essence. "Thank you, Eon." The temporal entity brightened at his praise, though her luminous energy remained somewhat dimmed from exertion. Her galaxy eyes widened as she noticed Selene, immediately sensing something significant about the newcomer. "You're both," Eon observed with childlike directness. "Divine and mortal together. How is that possible?" Selene smiled gently at the temporal child. "Through choice and transformation, little one. All states of being contain elements of their opposites. The divine holds mortality within it, just as the mortal carries divine potential." This philosophical exchange was interrupted as Kyrus's portal began contracting, his clock work form reconfiguring into farewell positioning. "The immediate crisis passes, but greater challenges approach," he stated with mathematical precision. "I have provided information as courtesy between temporal entities. Judge its value by results rather than source." "Why help us at all?" Goku asked directly, still uncertain about the clockwork entity's ultimate motivations. Kyrus's chronometer eyes adjusted, focusing intently on Goku. "Because you represent something I once sought, change within cosmic stagnation. Your unconventional ascension creates possibility where only rigid certainty existed before." His mechanical features arranged into what might have been wry amusement. "Consider it investment in cosmic evolution." With those cryptic words, his portal collapsed with perfect mathematical precision, leaving no trace of his presence beyond the information he had shared. "Can he be trusted?" Tempest asked immediately, energy blades finally dissipating as the immediate threats subsided. "Partially," Selene replied before anyone else could respond. "Kyrus values cosmic functionality above all else. He will provide accurate information when reality preservation aligns with his objectives. When they diverge," she shrugged elegantly, "calculations will determine his actions." His assessment of the eschaton's altered behavioral patterns matched both Drive Weston's analysis and our observational data. Avum noted, her cosmic energy field modulating thoughtfully, suggesting truthful disclosure, at least regarding immediate threats. Goku nodded, processing all had occurred in this extraordinary session. From temporal coexistence to counter-paradox entities, to Myra's scientific insights, Kyros's unexpected communication, Eon's remarkable development, Selene's timely intervention, and the Eschaton's first direct attack on his mortal connections, each element represented both challenge and opportunity in the cosmic role he continued adapting to. "We need to prepare for escalation," he stated, divine perception already detecting subtle shifts in reality's deeper patterns that suggested the Eschaton was indeed analyzing response data and formulating new approaches. Today's attacks were coordinated but limited, testing our defensive capabilities rather than committing to full assault. "The pattern follows historical precedent," Selene confirmed. "The Eschaton builds strategic understanding through progressive engagement before implementing primary offensive protocols. Then we use this time to strengthen our position," Goku decided, turning to address each ally individually. "Avam, can you accelerate my training in advanced temporal manipulation? We need to develop counter techniques for whatever comes next." The creation goddesses, cosmic energy pulsed with firm agreement. "We will focus on causal recursion techniques, methods for manipulating fundamental reality parameters without timeline destabilization." Goku nodded gratefully before turning to Tempest. "Your combat experience against extradimensional threats has already proven invaluable. Would you be willing to teach me more advanced applications of the Chrono Guard's defensive methods?" The white-haired warrior straightened, bioluminescent markings pulsing with what might have been pride. "It would be my honor, Time God." The Chrono Guard developed specific Komba Chi protocols against void-based entities that even most divine beings never mastered. To Eon, Goku extended gentle encouragement. "You showed extraordinary ability today, but you need rest and further development. Your natural talent for temporal coexistence could become a crucial advantage if properly cultivated." The temporal entity brightened with pleasure at being included in these preparations, her exhaustion already diminishing as her resilient nature reasserted itself. Finally, Goku turned to Selene. "Your knowledge of previous cosmic cycles and the Eschaton's historical patterns would be invaluable. Would you consider staying in the Nexus to help us prepare?" The serene being considered his request thoughtfully. "My existence bridges mortal and divine realms, allowing me limited time in either. I cannot remain permanently, but I will return regularly to provide guidance as patterns emerge." "And Dr. Weston's visit," Tempest prompted, reminding Goku of his earlier decision. "Should be arranged immediately," he confirmed. Her scientific perspective and analysis of mathematical progressions could help us anticipate the Eschaton's next moves. "Avam, can we create safe passage for her to the Nexus?" The celestial goddess's cosmic energy field shifted through complex frequencies as she considered the unprecedented request. After a moment, she responded with reluctant affirmation. Her temporal anchor status provides natural protection against dimensional transition effects. With proper harmonic calibration, safe transport should be achievable. As plans formed foe are confronting the escalating cosmic threat, Goku found himself reflecting on how much had changed in the short time since his transformation. Where once he had fought to protect a single planet or universe, he now stood as guardian of all reality, yet the fundamental purpose remained the same, protecting innocent lives from forces that would destroy them. The faces around him, Avam with her ancient Chi cosmic wisdom gradually warming to more personal connection, Tempest with her warrior's discipline and hard-earned experience, newly formed Eon with her innocent curiosity and unique temporal perspective, and now Selene, bridging divine and mortal understanding through her extraordinary choice, formed something Goku could only describe as a cosmic family. Different beings united by common purpose, each bringing unique strengths to challenges beyond any individual's capacity. As the temporal nexus gradually returned to stable equilibrium, timeline fractures contained and protective fields reinforced, Goku sensed something subtle yet profound shifting within cosmic architecture itself. Not just reality's physical structure, but something more fundamental, the relationship between divine guardians and the realities they protected. Between cosmic function and emotional connection, between duty and personal choice. In the infinite crystalline expanse of the divine realm, as golden times EAMS flowed in mathematical perfection throughout creation, the god of time stood with his unlikely allies, a circle of diverse beings preparing to face the greatest threat reality had encountered in 17 cosmic cycles. And somewhere beyond conventional dimensional boundaries, in a realm of pure mathematical concept, a clockwork entity named Kairos observed these developments with mechanical fascination. Chronometer eyes calculating possibilities with perfect precision as ancient cycles began evolving in new, unprecedented patterns. The cosmic game advanced to its next phase, pieces moving across a multidimensional board where the stakes were nothing less than existence itself. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.